One Takuro Bane is an incredibly lonely student who has never even held a girl's hand before. At the Magic Academy, everyone views him as weak, and he constantly gets bullied by Makabe's gang. Izumiya is the student council president and the school's top elite student. Seeing Kurobani get mocked, the top student thinks about stepping in. But our boy will not be needing her protection anymore. Amazingly, Kurobane stopped being a loser and suddenly became powerful. Now anyone who dared to torment him is going to pay the price. And Izumiya will have to fight hard to keep her rank as number 1. While struggling not to fall for this loser, our tale begins with a beaten demon. King preparing his ultimate spell to destroy Leon clean. Staring at his foe in total dread, the monster bursts out laughing. He screams that this is the end, launching a giant fireball straight toward Leon, but Leon simply stands his ground, calmly watching it approach before casting ice magic to block the attack and finish off the monster once and for all. As the final hope of humanity, he must free this world from the tyranny of the Demon King Belfar. Even while defending, Leon spots a critical vulnerability to counter, taking advantage of the confused Demon King who has entirely lost track of him. The hero stomps his foot, summoning a wall of razor-sharp ice spikes right beneath the fireball, too focused on his assault. Belfar fails to trace Leon's moves, leaving his defenses completely vulnerable. The Demon King gets impaled by dozens of frozen spears, giving his killer one final glare before dying. Belfar screams in fury that this is not over, then dissolves completely. Leon can hardly believe he won. But he breathes a sigh of relief, knowing the danger is finally past. With Demon King Belfar defeated by Leon's hand, peace returns to the land. Days later, at the Tenari orphanage where the mage was raised. Carriage is fully packed and ready to leave. Leon's destination is the royal castle. While chatting with the driver, a little girl holding a teddy bear runs over, calling his name and asking where he is headed. Kneeling down, Leon explains that he must go on an important mission. Telling his little sister to be good and wait for his return, he gently pats her head, promising to teach her some magic when he returns. Hours later, Leon enters the royal palace's grand throne room, greeted warmly by the king and Prince Shark. Kneeling before them, the wizard respectfully greets his majesty, noting that a lot of time has passed since their last meeting. Suddenly, a familiar female voice calls out. Turning, Leon spots Princess Sierra standing behind him. He kisses her hand while the king explains that he summoned her from a neighboring kingdom just for this special meeting. The king adds that as soon as Sarah heard Leon was coming, she rushed over as fast as possible. Leon asks the ruler why he was called. The king explains that, according to Prince Shark, there is a nearby cave where monsters keep. Appearing confused, Leon asks why monsters remain if the great demon king has already been destroyed. The ruler explains that this is exactly why he needs Leon's help, noting reports that anyone who goes into that cave never comes back. He emphasizes that Leon is not like ordinary. Besides, even if he went alone, he would be fine. He did defeat the Demon King himself. Leon could not argue with that. He felt responsible for protecting this hard-won peace, especially for the orphanage kids back. Bowing to the king, he respectfully accepted the request to investigate the cave. In exchange, the king promised that he would consider his marriage to Princess Sierra, a topic they had recently discussed. Looking at the blushing princess beside him, Leon just chuckled awkwardly. The king never changed, but marrying a princess still felt totally unreal for a regular guy like him. But inside the room, one of the 4 people present completely disagreed with the king's choice. With a wave of his hand, the king invited Leon to stay at the castle for the night, promising that Prince Shark would guide him there tomorrow morning. The next morning, as Leon loaded his gear onto the carriage, Prince Shark and his personal guard approached. He apologized for the delay with a warm smile, shaking Leon's hand and saying it was a pleasure to work together on this mission. Leon shook his hand and greeted him in return. A short while later, they arrived at the cavern. Shark pointed to a crack in the stone, suggesting the monsters were hiding inside. Staring into the darkness, Leon suggested they proceed with absolute caution. The place looked bizarre, choked with giant roots that twisted into a maze of tunnels. Looking around, Leon felt an unsettling vibe, wondering if the heavy aura of this place was why travelers kept disappearing. He turned around to warn Shark, but the prince blindsided him, driving a cold blade straight through Leon's chest. The strike was not instantly fatal, but Leon collapsed to his knees. Paralyzed and helpless, he realized the blade was poisoned, looking up to see Shark calmly wiping the blood off his steel. Leon demanded to know why he was doing this, but the prince sneered, revealing that this was his execution ground. Shark claimed the hero stood in his way, getting too close to Princess Sierra, stealing a position that rightfully belonged to him. Furious, Leon shouted that this was madness, and that he had zero interest in political power. He only wanted to help the kids at the orphanage. The prince covered his face and laughed aloud, his wicked voice echoing through the cave. He then revealed the children were already dead, tossing something at Leon's face. Leon stared in horror at the torn arm of a teddy bear that belonged to his little sister. Shark then explained that he had burned the orphanage to the ground with everyone trapped inside the night before, and then casually stomped on the toy's head. The prince added that it would cause trouble if people searched for a missing hero, sneering that they could all reunite in heaven now. Faced with this horrific reality, intense rage consumed Leon's soul. Before he could even scream, the prince kicked him hard in the chest. Still paralyzed by the poison, Leon fell helplessly into the abyss while Shark called out a mocking farewell, thanking the hero for his service. As he plummeted into the pitch-black void, Leon's fury was so intense he could not even utter a sound. He could only await his impending doom. Moments later, he slammed into the rocky floor, and a deadly silence filled the an eternity seemed to pass before a single cold drop splashed onto his face. Jolt of cold waking him, Leon gasped, opening his eyes to find himself still inside the cave, sitting in a pool of water. He nudged his arm, confirming that somehow he survived the plunge. Then, the brutal memories of Prince Shark's betrayal flooded his mind. Realizing that every word that traitor spoke was true, Leon slammed his fists against the stone in absolute despair, screaming that he would never forgive him. He dragged his battered body out of the pool, searching for an escape route. The cavern was massive, and he had no idea which way to go. His thoughts were cut short when a strange violet light flickered in front of him. Just ahead, wrapped in an ominous aura, stood a beast that resembled a giant skeletal hound. It was an otherworldly creature unlike anything Leon had ever fought, but with a single fireball launched straight at it, he instantly vaporized the beast. Leon walked over to the charred bones to inspect the strange creature. Suddenly, a blue system screen popped up in front of his eyes, announcing that the secret quest of the infinite passage was completed by the millionth player. Bewildered, he reached out to touch the mysterious screen, but was cut off as another identical beast spawned right behind him. Refusing to waste a second, Leon incinerated it with another fireball. When he glanced back at the system window, he noticed the count had ticked up to 2. He realized that the more monsters he defeated, the higher the count climbed. Still, his absolute main priority was finding a way out. Roaming deeper through the cavern, Leon stumbled upon a water source filled with the skeletons and rusted armor of fallen adventurers. He realized these were the warriors the king claimed had vanished inside the cave, kneeling before the dead. White-hot fury consumed him. He swore he wouldn't end up like them. From that day on, Leon spent his life exploring and fighting. An entire year passed, and he still hadn't found the exit. The only thing keeping him sane through the endless combat was his burning desire for revenge against Shark. Every time he hit a milestone for defeating monsters, he unlocked a new spell. When he hit the 100,000 mark, he unlocked dark magic. At first, he hesitated to use it because he had no idea what the dark consequences would be, but he eventually realized this forbidden power was exactly what he needed for his revenge. Finally, 10 years had passed since his fall. Leon had claimed every single reward for defeating monsters and completed the secret mission, having slaughtered a million enemies just to stay alive. Once the quest was complete, a mysterious voice began speaking to him, commanding him to defeat someone. Right as the voice spoke, blinding sunlight broke through the darkness, shielding his eyes. Leon saw a massive, glowing golden gate. With no other choice, he stepped forward, passing through the gates to see what waited on the other side. Leon woke up to find himself lying face down in shallow water. Opening eyes, he staggered to his feet and caught his reflection, staring at the face of a man he didn't even recognize. Stunned, he quickly spun around, trying to figure out where he was. The buildings around him made no sense and looked nothing like his home world, leaving him utterly bewildered. As he struggled to get his bearings, a voice nearby called him Kurabin, sounding They were shocked he was still awake. A red-haired thug sneered that he was surprisingly durable, making a decent punching bag. Leon stared back in utter confusion and asked if they were speaking to him. Annoyed, a massive, burly brute snapped, telling him to shut his mouth. The thug stomped over and grabbed Leon by his hair, drowning him in the fountain, while the redhead barked at him to wake up. Having no clue what these thugs wanted, Leon decided to fight back. He raised his arms, unleashing his water magic and invoking a spell called Flood Scourge. Colossal torrents of water erupted from the fountain, launching the giant bully backward. The red-haired thug was also sent flying, rolling across the hard ground. As the brute struggled to his feet, he saw Leon standing strong and fearless, looking nothing like the weak kid who used to endure their brutal beatings. His lackeys scrambled to help their leader up, while Macabe stared in pure shock at Leon, growling in frustration. The defeated brute realized it was wiser to avoid another fight, quickly ordering his gang to retreat. Leon just watched these strange men flee, struggling to comprehend what was happening. Right then, an eerie voice drifted through the air, noting with grim amusement that he had unleashed immense strength despite his magic being suppressed. The violet flame remarked that it expected nothing less from Leon, knowing the youth had endless questions. The spark suddenly zipped into the sky, suggesting they find a quieter place to talk. Leon hurried after it, urging it to stop. The flame eventually paused, assuring him they were safe now that they had reached their destination. The glowing orb then flared with a blinding flash, forcing Leon to shield his eyes. As the glare faded, a tiny blue-haired mage girl appeared and immediately lunged forward to hug him. Ecstatic, she declared it a profound honor to meet him, but Leon warily grabbed her shoulders and pushed her away. He demanded to know who she was and what was actually happening here. The girl apologized and introduced herself as Luna, an emissary of the goddess. Still confused, Leon asked what kind of messenger she actually was. Luna admitted she had simplified her title and was actually a spiritual medium for the deceased. She revealed that Leon had indeed perished when he was shoved off that cavern cliff. Now, his soul resided in an entirely new world, inhabiting a local boy's body by the grace of divine power. Bombarded with this wild revelation, Leon needed a moment to steady himself and absorb it all. Luna apologized for dumping such a heavy truth on him. So suddenly, Leon offered a calm smile, saying he had already sorted out his thoughts. He then wondered aloud why his master had sent him to this realm. Before Luna could answer, a blinding emerald flash erupted right before them, manifesting a colossal green gateway. It was the exact same size as the portal Leon had used to escape his previous dungeon. Extending her hand to him, Luna noted that this magical doorway had arrived at the perfect moment to provide his answers. Completely captivated by the giant structure, Leon had no clue what lay on the other side, but he took a deep breath and crossed the threshold once more. The instant he entered, Leon locked eyes with a horror he had not witnessed in over a decade. Waiting right there was the exact same beast he had faced before. He had fought before he even became a hero back on his home planet. There was no mistaking it. The beast charging toward him was Grandaros, an ancient servant of the Demon King. Lelfar Grandaros was a relentless monster, shielded by an incredibly powerful magic barrier. 10 years ago, it took Leon over 3 days to defeat the beast back in his original world. Now he had to face it again. Before the fight could even begin, Luna told Leon to use his new magic, promising an easy win. Instantly catching on, the young hero activated his dark magic attribute. At that exact moment, the beast lunged forward, ready to crush him in its massive jaws. But as Leon let the dark mana flow through his veins, a terrifying aura flared up around him. Reaching all the way to the monster, he cast Blessing Rupture, and in a matter of seconds, the enemy's unbreakable barrier completely shattered. Leon could have never dreamed of wielding this kind of power in the past. Having lost its ultimate defense, the monster tried to run away as fast as it could, but it didn't get far. It turned out stripping away blessings wasn't the only thing dark magic could do. With one swift movement, Leon cast Claws of Death, piercing the beast's neck. The monster collapsed dead at his feet. A battle against a creature that was once almost as powerful as the Demon King himself didn't even last 30 seconds. Luna cheered happily, celebrating his rapid victory. Meanwhile, shocked Leon just stared at his own hand, still crackling with dark energy, unable to believe he possessed this much strength, while the goddess's messenger Kept celebrating, he just stood there for a moment, staring down at the corpse of the monster. He then looked over at the excited girl and asked with pure annoyance why she hadn't mentioned this power from the very beginning. Luna apologized, explaining that it was better for him to witness firsthand how different this strength was compared to what he used to have. With a deep sigh, Leon said he understood. If he had been summoned here, it meant the demon king Belelfar was coming to this world, too. Luna praised his sharp intuition and explained that the portal they just went through had formed because of Belelfar's influence. She warned him that this world was now in danger of being destroyed by the demon king's army. With that, Leon finally understood why the goddess had given him a guide and brought him to this place. Still, he wondered if Belelfar was really the only reason he was summoned. Looking up, he saw a barrier flickering nearby, bearing a familiar emblem. It was the exact same symbol he had seen in his original world, the tattoo on his rival's hand. Leon was instantly consumed by rage at the thought that he had crossed over to this world too. Luna wanted to comfort him, but she suddenly spotted something that could ruin their future plans. Apologizing to Leon, the divine messenger quickly vanished to avoid causing him any trouble. A moment later, a suspicious female voice called out from behind, asking for a bit of his time. When Leon turned around, he stared in disbelief at the newcomer. The stranger walked up, greeted him, and asked if there was an open gateway nearby. Luna, who seemed to be living inside Leon's mind, immediately smelled trouble and urged him to play dumb. Taking her advice, he told the stranger he had not seen anything like that. Looking thoughtful, the girl murmured that it was strange because she could have sworn she felt a portal nearby. Looking closer at Leon's face, she suddenly recognized him and asked if he was the kid who hung out with those delinquents. He tried to explain, but she just bowed and apologized. She explained that she had tried to stop them but realized too late there was nothing she could do. Smiling, Leon told her she had nothing to apologize for. He did not even know her, but he immediately liked how honest and straightforward she was. After confirming once more that he had not seen a portal, the girl said goodbye, mentioning she had to get back to the dorms. Once she was gone, Luna hopped up and praised her, calling it amazing she could actually sense the portal. Luna added that Leon had just found the target group's flag, meaning their paths would definitely cross again soon. While the messenger rambled on excitedly, Leon just stared at her, completely lost. A bit later, back at the student dorms, Leon reached his room only to find a wall of sticky notes covered in insults plastered over his door. He let out a heavy sigh while staring at the hate mail. Other students watching from the hallway started whispering and laughing at him. Grabbing the doorknob, Leon immediately realized what kind of situation he was in, thinking to himself that the girl he met earlier was a rare exception. As soon as they were alone inside, Luna took the form of a petite girl and started venting, asking what was wrong with those people and why they wrote such nasty things. Meanwhile, as Leon looked around his new room, he realized that Curabane, the original owner of this body, had a really rough time sitting on his bed. He wondered what was up with this school. He questioned why their crest looked exactly like the symbol on Shark's hand, and if the prince had also ended up in this world with the Demon King. Unfortunately, Luna did not have any answers. She knew very little about this place, only showing up occasionally to guide him, and had never seen the prince around. Thanking the messenger, Leon said he wanted to get to the bottom of all this, but first he had to figure out how the academy worked. Even if he had to pause his search for Shark for now, he would never forget what his rival did to him. The next day, Leon decided it was time for a makeover and got a new haircut. Luna kept cheering him on, loving his new style, saying it made him look far more intimidating. As he put on his jacket, Leon realized that for now, he had to act exactly like the original Curabane, even mimicking the way he talked. He grabbed his bag, left the dorms, and headed to school. Leon had to study hard to learn about this world since he knew next to nothing about it. A few years ago, mysterious spaces called gates started appearing, and alongside them, people who could use magic. Dangerous monsters flooded out of these gates, and the warriors who defeated them could harvest valuable resources from inside. The number of hunters wanting in on this job grew daily, and the Holy Imperial Academy was the institution responsible for training them. While lost in a sudden noise outside shattered Leon's thoughts, drawing him to the window. Outside stood Makoto, the student council president, just watching her move made it clear. She was a master of magic, but when the bell rang for recess, Lion slipped out of the classroom, heading straight for the library to do some research. Instead, a familiar redhead stepped out to block his path with a smug smirk. It was time to put Lion to work on some chores, the heavy brute clamped a hand onto his shoulder, demanding Lion go fetch him some bread. Staring back calmly, Lion suggested he should just go buy it himself. From the cafeteria, the bully did not expect such blatant disrespect. Furious, the brute lost his temper completely and yelled, demanding why Lion was acting so arrogant since yesterday, squeezing his shoulder. The massive bully raised a heavy hand and began gathering magic, ready to teach this kid a lesson right then and there. Spotting the trouble, the student council president rushed over to stop them, reminding everyone that using magic on school grounds was strictly forbidden. But Macabe ignored her, conjuring a massive stone hammer to crush Lion. Staring at the giant with cold contempt, Lion softly whispered his spell. Then Lion activated his dark magic, tearing open a void in space that swallowed the incoming strike. This dark force was called Sinister Devourer and Macabe's stone. Hammer instantly vanished into nothingness. With a casual wave, Lion closed. The spatial tier completely neutralizing the blow, both the bully and the president stood there in complete shock. Lion apologized to his classmates and walked away, leaving the president staring after him in disbelief. Later that day, Lion received a letter summoning him to the training grounds. Reading the challenge, Luna urged him to ignore the stupid bully. But Lion refused. He wanted to crush any obstacles in his way. Luna eagerly offered to help smash the arrogant jerk herself. But Lion shut that down, ordering her to stay hidden out of sight. That evening at the training field, Macabe was shocked to see Lion arrive. The brute immediately demanded an explanation for what happened earlier. When Lion refused to give a straight answer, the bully growled, demanding a one-on-one duel to put him in his place. Lion agreed on one condition: if he won, the harassment had to stop. Clutching his face in absolute rage, Macabe screamed at him, baffled by how cocky Lion was acting compared to yesterday. Back then, a simple shove had him shaking. Lion just cut him off, telling him to shut up and fight. Furious, Macabe ordered his lackeys to strike. The two thugs charged, readying spells from both sides. They closed in quickly, but Lion did not even flinch. He stood completely still, laughing like a madman. Macabe shouted that the fair duel was a complete lie. Lion calmly replied he already knew. Spreading his arms, he pointed his fingers and cast his negation mirror spell. The incoming magical blasts bounced right back at the attackers, instantly dropping both lackeys. Now only Macabe stood. Left by himself, jaw dropped, Lion offered a sarcastic apology, stating he would never let his guard down again, promising zero mercy for anyone who dared to target him. Then he began channeling dark energy into his hand and stepped slowly toward Macabe. Terrified, the bully couldn't comprehend what was happening, since magic was only supposed to consist of wind, water, fire, and earth. Trembling with fear, he demanded to know how someone deemed completely useless could wield such power. Lion simply repeated that word with pure disdain, annoyed his opponent still dared to look down on him. In a panic, Macabe reached out to cast a fireball, but Lion moved faster than the eye could follow. He grabbed the bully by the throat, blasting him with dark magic. Macabe refused to accept losing to some brat, but his body failed him, sending him crashing unconscious to the ground. Lion extinguished his dark flames while Luna approached, noting how useful it was to siphon an opponent's mana. Lion agreed, figuring that the guy probably wouldn't bother him again, glad everything was resolved without further trouble. But suddenly, deafening boom echoed through the air as alarms blared, warning everyone to evacuate. Over the speakers, the student council president announced that a red portal, the highest danger level, had opened near the training grounds. Panicked students rushed outside as Izumi Makoto directed them through the hallways, ordering them to avoid combat during the evacuation. She planned to seal the portal immediately, but a teacher blocked her path. He explained that the principal had banned any intervention to protect the academy from any legal liability if the operation failed. Izumi argued back, pointing out that a similar portal had devastated the nearby town in the past. She insisted that handling these exact threats was the entire reason they trained at this academy in the first place, which was why she had to Seal it, meanwhile, terrifying monsters started pouring out of the rift, cornering the closest students, one terrified kid lacking the speed or energy to outrun a pack of vicious wolves, tried fighting back with a stone arrow. But these high-rank monsters were far too durable to feel any scratch from such an attack. The boy would have been the first casualty if Izumi hadn't rushed to his rescue. Unleashing a volley of precise ice spears, she skewered every wolf attacking him. Izumi asked the terrified student if he could run, ordering him to seek help from the guards nearby, since the battlefield was so close to the city, and students were still in danger. Izumi decided the only way to prevent fatalities was to eliminate the dungeon boss. Watching from afar, Lion Luna watched her slash through monsters and charge straight into the rift. Looking thoughtful, Lion asked his companion what it took to close the portal, and she explained they simply had to defeat the boss controlling it. Hearing this, Lion suggested they charge in, but Luna warned him that while dark magic was exceptionally lethal, it drained a massive amount of mana, making this move incredibly dangerous. Lion shrugged it off, explaining to his guide that he wasn't acting out of heroism, but he still couldn't just ignore a threat right on his doorstep. Firsthand just how devastating the consequences of doing nothing could be. Luna smiled, calling Lion an incredible person. As they reached the entrance, he urged her to hurry, and they both leaped into the portal. Meanwhile, Izumi Yamakoto was fighting for her life against the monsters inside the fire caves. As expected from red category beasts, the clash was brutal. Just as she reached her absolute limit, a flame serpent reared up behind her. Izumi realized she had no time to dodge, but right then a surge of dark magic sent death claws piercing straight through the massive beast, stunned by the dark energy of the slain monster. She tried to process what had just happened. It took her a moment to realize who her savior was. Peering into the dark cave, she recognized her classmate Leon Kuraben, a guy who used to run errands for bullies, now standing inside a red category portal after saving her life. Approaching him, Izumi asked if her eyes were playing tricks. Leon stepped over the dead monster's tail and said he was just glad she wasn't hurt. She thanked him for the rescue and asked what magic he used. Demanding to know who he really was, Leon turned and reminded the student council president that they had bigger things to worry about. Their priority had to be closing the portal. Izumi agreed, saying they should keep moving. As they ran side by side, she stole another glance at the defeated serpent. She remembered that Leon had placed dead last in the Academy's mock battle, which seemed like a fair grade for him then. How was he capable of using such powerful magic? Deciding not to get distracted, she kept running with him deeper into the dungeon. Soon, the two were surrounded by monsters on all sides. Without hesitating, Izumi cast a spell that trapped the enemies in a massive sphere of water, dragging them all to a single point. Unable to breathe, the monsters were completely neutralized, clearing their path forward. Leon was impressed by her skill, thinking she definitely deserved her reputation as the Academy's top student. But moments later, the ground beneath them shattered in an earthquake and a massive one-eyed stone golem rose from the rocks. The creature lunged at Leon, but he dodged the attack effortlessly. Leaping backward, he reached out his hand and activated his dark magic, casting Blind Blade. Second later, the stone giant crumbled to pieces. Izumi noticed that Leon had aimed right for the monster's weak spot, its eye taking it down in a single hit. It wasn't just because of his unique magic. His speed and precision were insane, like a veteran warrior who had been fighting for decades. Moments later, the two of them reached the chamber where the final boss was waiting. Kuraben asked Asumiya if she was ready. Once she nodded, they stepped through the entrance to the boss room. Standing before them was the dreaded lava dragon. Even textbooks classified this creature as an extremely dangerous monster. Staring at the sheer size of the beast, Izumi froze. Kuraben snapped her back to reality, warning her to stay on her guard. He explained that the lava dragon would constantly breathe fire and use its tail for long-range sweeps. Right on cue, the monster started preparing. On its first attack, the beast opened its massive jaws, unleashing a searing blast of plasma, melting everything in its path. Izumi managed to dodge the flames, but she failed to react in time to the tail swipe Kurabani warned her about. Fortunately, she still escaped the impact without taking any damage. Taking her chance, Izumi launched an ice spear straight at the lava dragon's face, but the ice proved entirely useless against the boss. The Lava Dragon's heat was so intense that it completely neutralized her elemental advantage. Even so, Izumiya's attack successfully drew the monster's attention, making her the perfect decoy for Kurobani to close the distance. Standing right in front of the creature's face, Kurobani unleashed his deathglow skill. To dodge the devastating blow, the dragon flapped its wings frantically and took flight, trying to get away from him. Kurobani hadn't realized the beast could still fly, so he quickly planned his next move. Izumiya rushed over and asked if they were just going to let it escape. Kurobani turned and asked if she could use any magical elements other than water. When she nodded, he asked her to slow the dragon down using wind magic. Izumiya told him she trusted him, immediately casting her wind spell. With her hands outstretched, Izumiya channeled her mana. The spell whipped up fierce air currents around the dragon, drastically cutting its flight speed. The beast roared as its movements were restricted. Just then, a system notification alerted Kurobani that the enemy's movements had been halted. Stepping forward, he activated his dark magic and cast Abyss Ruler. Instantly, the lava dragon's body was swarmed by hundreds of shadow butterflies. Kurobani waited for the perfect moment and snapped his fingers. The butterflies clinging to the monster glowed intensely as the dragon, still trapped by the wind currents, let out a massive roar. A second later, a deafening explosion went off. Izumiya covered her eyes from the blinding light. When the smoke cleared, the two students saw the lava dragon lying defeated on the ground. Kurobani's assistant goddess began praising him for the fight. Smiling, Izumiya admitted she had plenty of questions, but confessed it was an incredible battle. Kurobani fist-bumped her, saying they only won because of her help. Soon after, the portal vanished, leaving them back in the real world. Looking around, Kurobani noted that the mission was accomplished and the area's damage seemed minimal. Their conversation was cut short by a man's voice calling out to Izumiya. Standing next to a car, a suited man demanded to know why she ignored his orders. This was Shido Atsushi, the headmaster of the Holy Imperial Academy. An annoyed Shido asked Izumiya how she planned to explain her disobedience. This was the first time Leon Klein had ever seen the headmaster. Shido had founded the institution, taking young mages under his wing and making a fortune in the process. Since he ran the place, there was a chance he was connected to Shark, but Leon figured it was too early to jump to conclusions. Izumiya tried to defend herself, arguing that students couldn't just stand by and ignore such danger. Shido cut her off, saying a sense of justice was no excuse, especially when her failure could have ruined the academy's reputation. This irritated Kurobani, who immediately questioned if the headmaster couldn't find better words to praise a student's bravery and grit. Shido snapped back, asking who he was to give an opinion, arguing that outsiders weren't allowed there. But Izumiya intervened, explaining that Kurobani wasn't an outsider. He was the sole reason they cleared the dangerous red portal. The headmaster scoffed in disbelief, unable to comprehend why the student council president would defend a loser ranking dead last at the school. Shido walked to his car, refusing to hear another word of this nonsense. Izumiya tried to step in to prove her point, but the headmaster turned and told her to face the consequences of her actions, instead of playing games with him. Before hopping into his car and driving off, the man had piqued Leon's interest. Now he had to see if Shido had any connection to Shark. Later that night, he returned to his dorm with Luna. The goddess's messenger ranted about how insufferable the headmaster was, noting that everyone at the academy treated Kurobani like total trash. While Luna rambled on, she noticed Leon flipping through the diary of Kurobani, the student whose body he'd taken over. We're about to see what he discovered. Looking at the notes, it was clear the boy suffered from severe mental exhaustion. Leon read a few passages aloud, closed the book, walked to the window and stared up at the moon. That night, he vowed he would prove them all wrong. Meanwhile, in his office, Shido Atsushi smoked a cigar. While reviewing some files, to him, Kurobani's track record proved he was a total loser. It annoyed the headmaster that a worthless insect dared talk back to him, completely clueless that he'd be expelled very soon. Meanwhile, in the shower, Izumiya reflected on the day's events. She couldn't comprehend how someone with such incredible skills could hold the absolute lowest rank. There had to be a mistake. No way Kurobani could have gained such ridiculous power so fast. The next day, inside the academy's main building, a guy blocked Kurobani's path, demanding a moment of his time. This was Naru Shuya, the student council's vice president. He claimed he heard rumors that Kurobani emerged from the dungeon yesterday alongside the president, accusing him of using the chaos to steal raw materials from the dungeon, even though Izumi claimed the boy helped her, knowing her personality. Everyone assumed she was just covering for Kurobani. Guys like him had no right to bother the president. Hearing this, Leon was growing irritated by the four-eyed guy's smug arrogance. Leon tried to explain. He only wanted to clear the portal, but those words didn't mean much coming from a loser who'd never won a single training duel during his entire stay at the academy, just as Naru scoffed that not even a kid would buy that lie. President Izumi interrupted, calling out to Kurobani, telling him she'd been looking for him, eager to avoid a scene. The vice president warned Kurobani to stay out of their way from now on. Before leaving, Narus reminded the president that she had an appointment. After lunch, once he was gone, Izumi asked Kurobani if the vice president had said anything to him. Kurobani told her not to worry, then asked why she was. She had been searching for him anyway, since the principal had ordered Lei to bring him to his office, but the moment they stepped inside, Principal Shidu didn't even look up. He immediately ordered the academy's worst student to pack his bags and get out. Lee tried to protest, but Shidu cut her off sharply, saying the reason was simple. The principal threw a file over to Kurobane and began listing his failures, pointing out his rock bottom magic scores and the fact that he hadn't won a single training battle since enrolling. He claimed a student with zero magical talent had no future, and that kicking him out was actually an act of mercy. Hearing these accusations, Kurobane reached down and picked up the file. If staying at the academy was the goal, he had a simple solution. He would just have to prove his strength, since a series of training battles was scheduled for that month. Kurobane proposed a deal. If he won every single match, his expulsion would be cancelled. Shidu was furious at first, but as he glanced at the paperwork on his desk, he suddenly calmed down. One of those matches was scheduled for the 31st, and Kurobane's opponent was none other than Narus. Pretending to show mercy, the principal accepted the reckless proposal, fully confident there was no way Kurobane could ever defeat the vice president. But for Lion, this deal was the perfect first step to clear Kurobane's name and start his hunt for the man named Shark. Later that night, back at the dorms, Lion pulled out a sheet of paper and showed it to Luna. The two of them stared thoughtfully at the document. When they had left the principal's office earlier, Lee had tried to convince him to back down, arguing it wasn't fair for him to be expelled just over bad grades. She knew Kurobane's real skills were unquestionable, but she warned him that Narus was incredibly powerful. Kurobane just thanked Lee for worrying about him. To him, if winning a few battles was all it took to cancel the expulsion, it was a small price to pay. Besides, Kurobane had already decided he was going to make everyone regret doubting him. After hearing the whole story, Luna admitted she still didn't understand why Lion was so desperate to stay at the academy. He explained his reasons were simple. He needed to track down Shark. Staying at the academy was his best bet to keep an eye on things from the inside. Plus, Lion was almost certain Principal Shidu and Shark were connected somehow. He even speculated that Shark might be the one possessing the principal, but Luna shut that theory down, warning him that was impossible. She would easily sense if someone from another dimension was nearby. Lion agreed, noting that the two of them had completely different vibes. Seeing how upset Luna suddenly looked, Lion asked what was wrong. She confessed she felt terrible that the goddess had placed such a heavy burden on his shoulders, but Lion quickly reassured her, explaining that he was actually grateful for the opportunity. He told her that if the goddess herself was giving him a chance to fight Belfar, a threat to the entire world, then he was all in. There was absolutely no need for her to worry. His words comforted Luna, completely convincing her that the goddess had made the right choice by picking him. Lion wrapped up the conversation, suggesting they got some rest before the training battles began the next day. Luna enthusiastically agreed, declaring she would crush the principal tomorrow and wipe that arrogant smirk right off his face. The next day, the training battles kicked off. Seeing that his opponent was the academy's weakest student, a brown-haired kid laughed, eager for an easy win. The crowd cheered him on, yelling for him to humiliate his opponent and drag him through the mud. Kurobane didn't say a word, only letting out a heavy sigh as soon as the Signal to fight was given. The brown-haired kid lunged forward, telling Kurobane to get ready for a trip to the infirmary. With a wave of his hand, he launched a blast of wind magic, but a second later, Kurobane vanished right before everyone's eyes. Surprised, his opponent figured his spell had just blasted him away. Suddenly, Kurobane appeared right behind him. Using earth magic, he blasted a stone straight into the student's chest. Catching him completely off guard, the winner of the first match was decided in less than a minute. The worst student in the Imperial Academy had just defeated the 23rd ranked fighter. No one in the crowd could keep up with Kurobane's movements, and the speed of his spell was unbelievable. He didn't even need to use dark magic. From that moment on, Kurobane's strength started drawing everyone's attention. In his next few fights, he kept crushing his opponents without facing any real resistance. The referee announced Kurobane's victory just seconds after each match started. Principal Shido was furious, unable to believe that the student who used to lose every single fight was now on an undefeated streak. Shido wondered if the kid was cheating somehow, or if he really was the one who sealed the red portal. While he was lost in thought, there was a knock on his office door, and the student council vice president Narus walked in and asked if the principal had summoned him. The principal reminded Narus that his final opponent in the training battles would be Kurobane. The principal ordered the vice president to fight with everything he had, saying they couldn't let that kid walk away undefeated. Narus told the principal not to worry, claiming there was no way he'd lose to someone like him. Narus had been watching Kurobane's fights closely and noticed he only used earth magic, even though the other students had lost. The vice president was confident that trick wouldn't work on him. Shortly after, Kurobane's second-to-last match ended in another victory, leaving the crowd baffled by how much he had changed in just a month. The student council president Lee handed Kurobane a water bottle and mentioned that everything was going according to plan. Now only one opponent stood between them and winning their bet. However, this could be his toughest match yet. After a few fights between other students, it was time for the final battle. Before the match started, Narus commented that his opponent had gotten incredibly lucky today, but unfortunately for him, his luck was about to run out. Kurobane replied that it wasn't about luck. He was winning because he had to win, and he was confident he would beat the vice president tonight. His words infuriated Narus. Taking his combat stance, he said he wanted to see Kurobane talk like that when he was face down on the ground. The stands were packed with everyone was anxious to see the second-ranked student crush the academy's ultimate bottom feeder. The start signal echoed. Still, something about his opponent was making Narus deeply uneasy. He wondered how someone from the absolute bottom could suddenly awaken like this. He wondered if Kurobane had been hiding his true strength all along, just to grab attention with a winning streak, though that seemed utterly ridiculous. Determined to show his real strength, the vice president unleashed high-level wind magic. He summoned a magic bow, drew a lightning arrow, and fired. The projectile split into three and surged forward at terrifying speeds, but Kurobane instantly activated earth magic and raised a stone wall, blocking the attack. All three arrows slammed into the barrier and vanished. Narus could not believe his eyes. He couldn't comprehend how Kurobane blocked a lightning attack, even with his high-level wind magic active as the vice president, and even if Kurobane had better stats, their gap in raw power should have made up for it. Still, he couldn't panic. From everything he had witnessed, Kurobane should only be able to use earth magic, so Narusi decided to try another approach, switching to the earth element. He summoned several massive boulders right over his opponent's head and rained them down, but to everyone's absolute shock, Kurobane revealed a brand new power. Unleashing wind magic, he blew Narus's attack away with a massive gust of wind. The rocks crashed harmlessly to the ground, leaving Narus completely stunned that his opponent could also use wind magic. The crowd went wild. Nobody expected the former worst student to counter the vice president's spell so effortlessly. On top of that, he had already used two different elements in this fight, a massive feat since very few mages can master more than one element due to the intense training required. Seeing this, Izumiya realized just how mysterious Kurobane really was. Sneering, Narus muttered that Kurobane shouldn't have been able to use anything except earth magic. Kurobane simply asked the vice president if he was looking down on everyone a bit too much, pointing out that jumping To conclusions is exactly what arrogant, careless people do. Sure, the vice president might be skilled, but with that childish attitude, he still has a long way to go. Infuriated by Kurabanet's arrogant words, Narus snapped back, telling him not to get ahead of himself. He said he only respects people with actual talent, and in this entire academy, President Izumia is the only one he looks up to. Narus had always pushed himself to get as close to the president as possible, wanting to be worthy of standing by her side and reaching the absolute peak of the magic world. That's why he couldn't stand the thought of someone he looked down on being on his level. With his motivations made clear, the vice president, who actually specializes in water magic, prepped another offensive spell. He channeled an incredible amount of mana and fired it at his opponent, freezing Kurabane's feet solid. Then he cast a spell called Sias, shooting a torrent of water into the sky. That froze instantly. Wind magic wouldn't be able to block this, and even an earth wall would just freeze over. Narus's victory seemed like a done deal until a flame suddenly flickered from inside the ice, and an overwhelming surge of mana erupted around Kuraban. Just a second later, Kuraban swung his arm, unleashing flames that completely shattered the vice president's spell. Controlling 3 elements at this tier was practically impossible for any student, but Kuraban was not finished yet. Going beyond 3 elements, he manifested razor-sharp ice blades right above Narus's head. With a clench of his fist, the frozen blades shot forward. As Naru scrambled to defend himself, he could not believe his rival had mastered every single element. Narus could not hold out. The ice blades pierced right through his defenses, dealing heavy damage and bringing him to his knees completely drained. Kuraban walked up to him and offered some advice, telling him that if he truly wants to reach the peak of magic, he must keep looking forward and stay focused on his goals, even with things still far beyond his reach. Those words struck a chord, reminding Narus of why he fought and what his ambitions were originally. Shaken, he wondered who on earth he was even fighting. Glancing up at Kuraban, he suddenly lunged for one final attack, but his strength completely failed him, sealing the victory for Kuraban. That same night at the Imperial Academy, the director slammed his fist down, crushing Kuraban's file. He could not believe a student supposedly so useless actually possessed all 4 elements, but then he recalled President Izumiya's words, confirming they only closed the gate. Because of him, furious, the director grabbed his phone and dialed, muttering that he would find a way to expel Kuraban, no matter what. However, by winning his fight against the vice president, Kuraban had already managed to convince Shido to call off the expulsion. Now the only question was what Leon should do next. He wanted to confront the director directly, but the man was away on a business trip. Essentially, Leon's immediate task was to keep sealing the gates. He figured that doing this might lure out those connected to Belfar, drawing them out of hiding on his own terms. Now, he just had to pinpoint exactly who he was targeting. The next day, Leon headed to the academy for classes. After the first lesson, a strange man walked into the classroom, instantly catching Leon's attention. Writing his name on the board, Hashiba Kisuk announced he was taking over the class, explaining that while sudden, it came directly from the higher-ups. The new teacher was incredibly handsome, immediately catching the attention of all the girls, who began whispering about his looks. Leon, however, sensed something was wrong and tensed up. At lunchtime, students were still gossiping about the recent training battles. Some were convinced the fights were rigged because nobody could believe the worst student in school had easily defeated the academy's second highest-ranked fighter. Meanwhile, President Izumiya approached Leon, who was eating alone, and asked if she could join him. Sitting in the empty seat, Izumiya told Leon he did an remarkable job during the training duel, calling it a spectacular fight. She also wanted to thank him for what he did for Narus. While Narus was certainly frustrated after the match, Leon's advice had actually gotten through to him. Izumiya also admitted she still couldn't forgive the director, calling his paranoia completely irrational. When Leon asked if Ishido Atsuki had always been like this, she revealed that the director was a former seeker, and there were recent rumors about him having some highly shady connections. This instantly caught Leon's attention, but their conversation was cut short when the cafeteria television began broadcasting the news. The report stated that recent incidents near the Imperial Academy showed gates appearing much More frequently, although they had been closed quickly so far, everyone. The news anchor warned non-magic users to stay far away from the gates under any circumstances. Watching this, Leon remembered what Luna had recently warned him. If he went beyond his original gate, this world could end up destroyed by monsters. There was no way he would let Belfar have his way. Leon was already preparing to look into this and decided to ask Uzumiya for more information. Later that night, after dark, Leon and the goddess's messenger stood on a deserted city street. He had decided to patrol and see if another gate would open. Lately, Leon had been secretly sealing every single gate that popped up in the area the instant they appeared. The fact that he did all this behind the scenes completely charmed Luna. As she was praising him, another gate suddenly ripped open right in front of them. It was up to Leon to clear this green category gate, and he immediately stepped inside the dungeon. This time, the dungeon turned out to be a massive, dense forest. Since visibility was terrible, Luna warned Leon to be careful as they moved forward. Leon headed in, taking down the monsters one by one. Eventually, he reached the deepest part of the dungeon. To their surprise, there was nothing there. Or at least that is what Luna thought at first. While she was distracted, a beast lunged from behind and grabbed her by the shoulders. Dragging her away, the creature opened its jaws to devour her, but the messenger started thrashing around, screaming that she wasn't food. Seeing this, Leon told Luna to hold on and raised his hand to cast a dark magic spell. A second later, shadow needles pierced the winged beast's wings. Before the creature could even react, lethal claws erupted from beneath its feet. Leon finished it off, impaling it with sharp spikes of dark magic. The monster crashed to the ground dead, releasing the girl. Relieved that she had not been abandoned, Luna ran straight into Leon's arms, amazed by how fast he could cast spells. Leon explained that since ambushes were incredibly common in the depths of hell, he could now react almost instinctively. After clearing the dungeon, the two of them headed out and sealed the portal, lucky to wrap things up before the dungeon could devastate the surrounding area. As they talked about their adventures, a barrage of sharp stones materialized out of nowhere in a surprise attack. Leon leaped out of the way, looking up to see who cast it. That's when he spotted a mysterious silhouette on top of a nearby building. The masked man was surprised Leon had detected him, realizing this hunt would be fun. Since his target actually had some skill, Leon told Luna to hide. Immediately, the moment she vanished from sight, he demanded to know who the masked assassin was and why he was targeting him, but the killer had no intention of talking. Instead, he unleashed a barrage of fireballs. Leon easily dodged the attack, surprising the assassin. Still, the killer could summon fireballs at incredible speeds. Confident, Leon had no hope of escaping from that tight corner. Fortunately, Leon unleashed his dark magic. Black void tore open right before the flames, swallowing them all effortlessly. The assassin had never witnessed such terrifying magic before, but he remained stubbornly focused on capturing his prey. Yet before he could even move, sharp shadow claws erupted directly beneath his boots. He barely leaped aside, but still took some damage. Realizing his information on Leon was totally inaccurate, he immediately chose to retreat. Soon after, Luna crept out of hiding and rushed to ask Leon if he was all right. Reassuring her, Leon just stood in place, trying to piece together the sudden ambush. Back at the dorms, they quietly debated who could have sent the hitman. It was far too soon to know, but at least Leon could now track the attacker, who almost certainly had ties to someone inside the academy. Next time, Leon would catch him personally and force out the entire truth. No more games. By morning, Leon was back in class, but he simply couldn't get their mysterious new instructor off his mind. After the bell rang, that very man, Hashiba Kisuk, approached him directly, bringing up the rumors about Leon solo conquering a red gate. Leon shrugged, claiming the academy headmaster dismissed the whole story, but Kishka only smirked and said he trusted him, mentioning he had witnessed Leon during the mock battle last week. Patting Leon on the shoulder, he expressed how eager he was to see how the young man would perform later, before strolling away with a knowing grin. By the next afternoon, Leon returned to the gate. Hidden nearby, the masked assassin watched, plotting revenge for the injuries he suffered. He knew he had been too careless previously, but he refused to let history repeat itself. Besides, equipped with a powerful magical artifact, victory was practically guaranteed. Only a few minutes later, Leon emerged from the dungeon. The hitman was stunned, a mere student could conquer a green gate so quickly, but shook it off, grabbing his radio. He ordered his team to strike. Instantly, multiple cloaked figures surrounded Leon, channeling their destructive spells directly at him. Blinding blast of energy tore the entire street apart. Watching from the rooftop, the assassin cackled, believing his target was finished. He radioed his squad to verify the corpse just in case, but moments later, terrified shrieks filled his receiver. Scrambling over to the edge, the assassin peered down to find his entire squad wiped out. He couldn't fathom how anyone survived such a cataclysmic blast, yet he took solace in knowing Leon had no way to find his high vantage point. But right then, Leon's cold voice whispered from right behind him. Panicking, the assassin spun round, demanding to know how Leon had located him. Leon explained that his companion Luna had searched for anomalies the very instant they exited the gate. Then, with a swift flick of his hand, Leon triggered his wind magic. Sharp gust ripped the mask off the stranger, exposing his true face. It was Professor Kisuk, but Leon had already solved the mystery. When Kisuk asked how, Leon pointed out that the professor used different hands to hold the chalk during today's lectures compared to yesterday. He deduced that Kisuk was forced to switch because of the injury his right arm took during their first battle. On top of that, Leon dug into Kisuk's past and realized he was a former hunter specializing in the exact homing fire magic used the previous day. Leon demanded to know why he was targeted. Kisuk burst into a wild laugh, praising Leon for putting the pieces together, but warned him that he was still just a student. He unleashed a massive firestorm, trapping Leon with absolutely no escape. Kisuk boasted that he had slaughtered thousands of monsters with that spell, telling Leon he would die the same way before launching the flames right at him. But Leon did not flinch. He casually remarked that there was nothing about magic he did not know, dismissed the massive attack, and decided to show the professor how fire magic is truly used. Leon unleashed a spell called Crimson Flame, watching the fire rush toward him. Kisuk was terrified, recognizing it as the absolute highest tier of fire magic, but Leon corrected him, explaining this spell was actually just mid-tier. Furious, Kisuk screamed at him to stop looking down on him, activating his dark magic. Leon walked slowly toward Kisuk. He scoffed at the 1,000 monsters Kisuk bragged about killing were nothing compared to the 100,000 he had personally defeated. He grabbed Kisuk by the throat and began draining his mana. Kisuk screamed in agony as his energy was sucked away, trying desperately to move, but his body would not obey. Leon finally brought him down, with Luna cheering him on for the victory, but Leon was not done yet. Keeping his grip on Hashiba, he demanded to know if Shidu was the one who ordered the hit on him. When Hashiba stayed silent, Leon took it as a yes. Hashiba started screaming, claiming he was just following orders and that his instructions were to eliminate anyone trying to close the gates. Hearing this, everything clicked for Leon. Anyone closing the gates was a target. This was solid proof that Shidu was actually working with Belfar. Still, Leon was confused, knowing Shidu had literally founded an academy to train mages. Leon had his doubts, but he was absolutely sure Shidu was Belfar's lackey. He knew the authorities would not do anything to Shidu if he just handed Hashiba over, so he decided to keep him locked up, hoping to bait Shidu into making a sloppy move. Leon was fully prepared to expose everyone connected to the Demon King. Meanwhile, Shidu was meeting with his master. Walking into the house, a shiver ran down his spine as he bowed to the man casually sipping a drink in his chair. The boss demanded a quick report, and after listening, praised Shidu for a job well done. Shidu then brought up the issue that was bothering him. He explained how a student suddenly began showing insane results, almost as if he had become a completely different person, and added that Leon could actually use 4 elements. Shidu tried to reassure his master, saying he had already sent an assassin to handle the kid. However, the boss was thoroughly intrigued. Standing up, he stared out at the sky as a terrifying dark aura flooded the room. He knew this student could easily end up becoming a massive threat. Shidu insisted his top assassin would handle it, but the boss doubted it would succeed, noting that Hashiba had not checked in. Refusing to believe it, Shidu grabbed his phone to call his man but got no answer. Still refusing to accept that Hashiba had been crushed, he wondered how Leon could have actually won that fight. Shidu's boss decided their last remaining play was using the academy students as bait. He opened a desk drawer, pulled out a mysterious ring, and handed it to Shidu. Telling him he was authorized to launch the next phase of the experiment, Shidu was thrilled. They were finally moving on to the next phase, which was the actual reason they had been gathering powerful mages this whole time. The boss muttered that things were about to get much more interesting, and to spice things up, he resolved to activate the ominous black gate the very next day. After that briefing, Shidu called Lion into his office and apologized for how he had treated him before. He urged Lion to ignore his sudden change of heart. Claiming he had set all personal feelings aside, Shidu then brought up the recent surge of active dungeons and asked Lion to partner with Makoto to clear them. Lion noted that this meant they would be patrolling the specific areas where those gates had been appearing lately. He accepted the mission, and Shidu claimed he was counting on his success. The two shook hands, but Lion knew the man was plotting something and chose to play along until he figured out his game. As their hands gripped, a dark aura flared, but Lion did not notice. Leaving the office, Lion called Makoto up to the roof to debrief her, making it clear they were walking straight into a trap. He explained this was directly connected to what he had asked her to investigate. Earlier, Lion admitted he was not sure if Shidu suspected him yet, but the man definitely harbored sinister motives. Makoto argued that he should have simply declined the mission, but she quickly realized they could not just leave those gates open. Lion calmed her down, explaining his plan only involved himself, so he would patrol alone, but Makoto adamantly refused to let him go alone, saying she could not stand by and watch her country get destroyed. Seeing that she refused to back down, Lion had no choice but to let her tag along. He agreed they would head out at night, asking Makoto if she was scared of the beasts inside those gates. Makoto admitted her fear but explained she could not do nothing while dark forces threatened the world, which was the very reason she became a mage. Lion realized she was acting exactly like he did in his past life when he set out to slay the demon king. Makoto added that she felt confident as long as she was by Lion, she would find the strength to fight. Suddenly, a black gate tore open right behind Makoto, instantly pulling her inside. Lion stood shocked before the dark portal, feeling the heavy, sinister pressure radiating from it, but he did not hesitate for a second. Saving Makoto was his ultimate priority. Meanwhile, Shidu observed everything from his office window, laughing like a maniac. He gloated that his bait had worked beautifully. The leader of this gate was a terrifying, cunning beast that fed on mages with massive mana, and Shidu could not wait to see how Lion would survive it. Just as Lion was about to dive into the portal, Luna stopped him, warning him how extremely dangerous the rift felt. She was terrified of the dark power waiting inside. Lion understood her fear, since this ominous portal had opened right on their patrol route. He was certain it was Shidu pulling the strings. He suspected his rival planned to trap him and Makoto inside forever. Before he could process this, hordes of beasts began spilling from the gateway. Lion wanted to dive straight in, but he could not ignore the threats right before him. Suddenly, a volley of magic arrows rained down, tearing the beasts apart. Lion looked up to find Naruzi. The archer demanded to know what was happening, and Lion quickly explained that Makoto was trapped deep inside that dark void. Naruzi gasped in shock. With more beasts charging, Lion declared they had to stand and fight, but Naruzi ordered him inside, promising to hold the line. Lion gave a quick nod of thanks and leapt in. Naruzi knew that Lion was their absolute best hope to save Makoto, and unleashed more arrows. The moment Lion crossed the threshold, he found himself face to face with a colossal lava dragon, a boss-level threat. Instantly, the warrior unleashed his dark aura, summoned a blade, and cleaved the giant beast in two. Immediately, a swarm of dragons surrounded him, and he tore them apart with ruthless magic, while Shidu gloated from his office monitor. Deep within the portal, Lion finally arrived at the core of the dungeon. Luna saw his heavy breathing and asked if he was all right. He just smiled, telling her he had conquered far worse dungeons than this. She nodded, focused solely on finding Makoto before it was too late. Meanwhile, Makoto regained consciousness, only to find herself trapped by a hideous beast that was greedily siphoning her mana. She dreaded the absolute chaos this monster would unleash if it escaped, hoping Lion had made it out safely. But deep down, she knew he was not the type to abandon anyone. That fierce belief fueled her resolve. She refused to yield. Gathering her strength, she attempted to spark her fire magic, but her depleted mana pool failed her. The monster bared its fangs, ready to devour her, but at that exact moment, Lion burst into the chamber. A wave of relief washed over her. She smiled, knowing he would always save her. Meanwhile, Shidu reported his success to his master, confirming the dark gate was wide open. He was absolutely certain this would mark the tragic end of his hated rival. Inside, Luna warned Lion that the tentacles binding Makoto were draining her energy. Lion stared, admitting he had never encountered such a bizarre aberration. Not even in his previous life had he witnessed a threat this unnatural. Drawing his weapon, he prepared to strike. Suddenly, the beast lashed out. Lion rolled clear, observing the devastating shockwave left in its wake. One direct hit would mean instant death, forcing him to be incredibly cautious. Shifting his strategy, he aimed directly for the core while slicing through the incoming limbs with dark spells. Luna cheered, thinking they had won. But Lion shook his head. The battle was only just beginning. The creature's core remained completely untouched. Suddenly, the beast slammed its massive tentacles down, sending one bursting up right behind Leon. Thanks to Luna's snap warning, Leon managed to dive aside, escaping with just shallow cut. Makoto shrieked out in terror, but he assured her he was fine. Leon struggled to read the creature's chaotic movements, having never faced an opponent like this before. When another limb whipped out to catch him, unawares, Leon severed it with his dark blade and pressed forward, relentlessly shredding the beast's remaining appendages. Luna watched in sheer panic because Leon had been battling without rest since crossing the gate, meaning his mana was surely nearing absolute zero. To make matters worse, Makoto was suffocating to death. Inside the monster's tight grip, Luna knew that targeting the core directly was suicide, since those giant thrashing limbs could easily crush him. Yet Leon simply took one deep breath and lunged forward at impossible speed. He unleashed his dark magic Reaper spell to bind the tentacles, closing the gap before the beast could even register his approach. Instantly, he triggered Blind Blade, firing off bursts of pure energy that blinded the Titan right in its eyes. Challenging the beast head-on, Leon channeled his lord's strength, impaling and obliterating its physical shell. With the threat neutralized, Makoto began plummeting. But Leon caught her midair right before impact. She slowly opened her eyes, and when he asked if she was hurt, she whispered that she was just glad he showed up to rescue her. Meanwhile, across the city, Shido stood frozen in shock. System alert had just appeared, confirming the Black Gate was completely cleared. Sweating in cold panic, he desperately refused to believe Leon had actually conquered the dungeon boss alone. Shido fished around his pocket for the ring his master had gifted him, plotting to destroy his rival himself. Out of nowhere, Leon materialized right behind him, a look of pure murder on his face. Furious that Shido had dragged innocent Makoto into this nightmare, Shido went stiff. Leon warned him that he never intended to let such trash walk away, explaining he had planted a spiral-level magic mark onto Shido's flesh, allowing him to warp instantly to his exact coordinates. Shido gasped, having never witnessed high-level magic capable of such a feat. Leon wasted no time starting the interrogation, demanding to know if Shido engineered the Black Gate disaster. He ordered Shido not to lie, pointing at the strange machinery behind him that was clearly utilized to tear open the portal. Seething, Leon demanded to know why he would commit such an atrocity, especially since he was the founder of the Magic Academy. Shido broke into a twisted, arrogant smirk and confessed that the institution was designed solely as a buffet for high-ranking gate monsters. In his eyes, those students were nothing more than cattle bred for slaughter. He proudly admitted to summoning the portal, intending to ride the wave of chaos straight to the top. Leon could sense he wasn't bluffing, but felt utterly sickened that Shido would sacrifice Makoto's life for his own greed. Leon spat that he was garbage, but Shido shrugged, claiming he was prepared to slaughter Leon right on the spot. Shido unleashed a volley of fireballs, but Leon effortlessly deflected them using dark magic. Shido stared in disbelief as his spell was snuffed out the millisecond it brushed his target. Leon smirked, mocking, daring him to unleash his strongest spell. Shido stood there, utterly baffled. Leon was clearly exhausted, yet stood his ground, still talking trash. His rival prepped another massive fire spell, confident nothing would remain of his annoying rival. Shido unleashed the blazing inferno, but to his absolute shock, Leon absorbed the Entire spell, then Leon used his dark magic to reflect that power straight back. At him, Shido took the full blast of his own attack, screaming in agony. He could barely believe his eyes, wondering if this was truly the same weak student he had always dismissed as useless trash. Desperate, and realizing he was about to lose the fight, he desperately tried to summon another gate right inside the room, but Leon's dark magic crushed his hand before he could trigger the spell. Leon spotted the glowing rings on Shido's fingers and realized that was how he summoned those gates. Terrified by Leon's overwhelming fury, Shido was about to beg for mercy when a vicious punch to the face sent him crashing across the room. Leon grabbed him, coldly reminding the coward that trash like him did not deserve forgiveness. He promised to inflict so much pain that the villain would be forced to reveal his master's identity. Shido was right on the verge of talking when a hidden trigger snapped inside his mind, knocking him unconscious instantly. Leon quickly realized the mastermind behind this was incredibly cunning. Treating this defeat as nothing more than a sacrificed pawn, this hidden mastermind hated Leon's triumph, but vowed this would not be their final clash. Later on, Leon reported to Makoto that Shido had finally woken up without any of his memories and had been turned over to the police. Still, Leon remained anxious because new magic gates kept appearing all over, meaning others possessed the dangerous ability to summon them. He felt absolutely certain that Shark was behind it all. Luna warned that they could not afford to drop their guard, and Leon resolved to hunt down Shark no matter where he hid. Later that night, Leon woke, screaming from a nightmare, reliving the bitter tragedy that fueled his quest for vengeance. Opening his eyes, he saw Luna sleeping peacefully beside him. He knew Shido was locked away, but there was no way he acted alone. Shark had to be lurking nearby. Shortly after, the academy welcomed a brand new principal, and Leon grew highly curious about this mysterious figure. Makoto mentioned that the new administrator actually requested to meet him. When Leon asked if she had already spoken to him, she confirmed it, adding that she managed the connection through her influential family network. It turned out the new principal was Janice Coleman, a high-ranking instructor from an elite magic association who had looked out for her since childhood. Listening to her praise, Leon instantly realized Janice was an elite fighter, famous for conquering countless dangerous gates. Luna was eager to meet him, while Leon hoped he would prove a capable, trustworthy ally. Even so, he harbored some doubts about trusting a man named Janice. The moment they entered the office, the principal enthusiastically rushed over to greet them. Shocked by this intense energy, Leon whispered, asking if the new boss was always so hyperactive. She nodded in agreement. Janice then eagerly asked Leon if he recognized him. Leon nodded, explaining he was well aware of the man's prestigious background in the elite association known as Saber, an elite force tasked with managing these dangerous gates, manifesting across the globe, serving as humanity's ultimate shield. Janice explained that academy cadets would get the opportunity to enlist after graduation. However, he emphasized that only the absolute elite were ever accepted, before shamelessly boasting about his own power as a high-tier mage with a prestigious rank in the guild, leaving Leon feeling quite amused by the man's massive ego. Makoto interrupted him, reminding him they had urgent business to settle with Leon. Immediately, Janice's entire playful demeanor vanished. His smile died instantly, replaced by cold seriousness. He warned Leon that humanity remained on the brink of disaster due to these rifts. Leon nodded, fully aware of the threat. Janice explained that Saber was facing a severe staffing shortage, leaving this entire region without active agents locally. But stick with me, everything changed when a massive black gate appeared. That unprecedented crisis grabbed the guild's attention, prompting them to deploy Janice. Here, the organization quickly recognized that this black gate was far more hazardous than standard red ones, carrying a catastrophic threat to lives if the beasts inside managed to escape. Janice stressed the vital importance of watching these perilous dungeons, but admitted that Saber lacked sufficient manpower because they were desperately short-staffed. He requested Makoto and Leon's assistance, having received intel indicating that they were the very fighters who closed the Black Gate. Knowing how impossible it was for even Saber's top-tier mages to seal a black portal, Janice did not hesitate to secure their cooperation. After witnessing what they could achieve, Leon shook the principal's hand, promising he would be ready when needed. Makoto attempted to interject and reveal that Lion had actually conquered the portal entirely alone, but an alarm suddenly screeched, signaling that a red gate had materialized right near the campus. Janice smiled, viewing this as the perfect opportunity to witness their combat skills. Leon and Makoto headed straight to the site. Leon instructed Janice to defend the perimeter and contain any beasts escaping the portal, and the principal quickly agreed. Just as the pair were preparing to step inside, Marus intercepted them, requesting to join. Leon welcomed the additional support to bolster their ranks, and they all crossed into the dungeon. Once inside, we quickly see why Janice wanted to evaluate their teamwork in action. This environment deeply reminded him of his past world, where fighting shoulder to shoulder was the only way to establish trust. For Leon, he had no issue fighting beside Makoto or anyone else, as long as they secured victory. As the team ventured deeper into the dungeon, they immediately encountered a hostile monster horde. Makoto stepped forward to intercept the wolf-like beasts, calling upon her water magic. She manifested frozen blades that impaled the targets, yet one beast managed to slip past her defenses, leaping right toward her, but Leon intercepted and crushed it. While he assisted her, a massive golem nearly caught Leon off guard. He barked at Marus to target the creature's eyes. Maruza discharged a volley of arrows, piercing the golem's vulnerable eyes and bringing it crashing down. Next, the party encountered a swarm of winged bat-like monsters. Faced with these overwhelming numbers, Leon decided to handle the threat himself, unleashing catastrophic dark magic to obliterate them in a single strike. After clearing the chamber, Makoto and Maru apologized for their slow pace, but Leon he praised their performance, prompting Marui to immediately ask Leon about his unique dark magic, having never witnessed anything like it. Next, he asks Makoto if she had seen it before. She nods, admitting she is just as curious. Leon explains that his power is a rare type called Dark Attribute Magic. He adds that he cannot explain everything, yet since they still have to clear the gate, though he notes this magic possesses incredibly rare properties and effects unmatched by the basic four elements. Then Marus asks if Leon held back during their sparring match. Leon points out that he obviously could not unleash such overwhelming, destructive force right in front of the entire school. With that, he orders the squad to locate the boss. Makoto, however, can read Leon easily. Seeing his combat style, she knows he must have endured grueling training to reach this level. She wonders about his drive, sensing some hidden, personal motive behind his desperate push to the limit. Wondering if she will ever uncover his secrets. At last, the party reaches the boss chamber, confronting a massive crystal dragon. Leon recalls that during his previous life, this beast possessed a nearly impenetrable defense. Winning was a nightmare back then, but now he has allies. He tells Makoto and Maruzi to distract the monster by striking its hind legs while he charges it head-on. As Leon lunges forward, his teammates Makoto, Maruzi, and Iin unleash powerful ice magic to freeze the beast solid. This grants him the perfect opportunity to draw his blade and sever the monster's head in one clean strike. The gate is officially cleared, and upon exiting, they encounter Janice waiting outside. The instructor gladly admits they easily exceeded his expectations. Leon quickly realizes that Janice cleared out the stray monsters that managed to escape the dungeon. The instructor waves it off, saying it was nothing, since weak surface beasts are a joke compared to the threats they just destroyed. Leon then decides to share a proposal. Keeping their shared goal of closing all the gates in mind, he reveals that he is forming a new guild with his friends, requesting official permission for them to take charge of sealing the gates. Janice is stunned to learn they want to register a guild of only 3 people, dedicated solely to defeating these dungeons. He notes that students have never founded a clan before, but given their incredible strength, he is willing to make an exception. Moved by their drive, Janice gives Leon full approval to operate freely. The instructor also guarantees they will not have to worry about academy classes. Since he holds absolute authority, he will count their guild's accomplishments as school grades. Leon thanks his mentor, and with that, the trio officially launches a brand new guild. Later, Leon meets up with Marus and Makoto, revealing a detailed map that tracks every single gate he has successfully cleared. He urges them to study the markings to identify any potential patterns. Maruzi is utterly stunned, staring in disbelief at the sheer number of dungeons Leon conquered. Completely solo, in that instant, Makoto and Marus connect the dots, realizing Lion was the mystery. Entity behind all those unexplained dungeon clearances. Marus points out that Lion's solo exploits were incredibly reckless, a sentiment that Luna completely echoes. Makoto reminds everyone they are in the same clan now, and Narus tells Lion he doesn't have to carry the burden alone, and Lion agrees. She then explains that the monsters emerging from the gates are not the only threat. Whenever a gate opens, a strange magical essence leaks out. While this energy benefits mages, it is extremely toxic to ordinary humans. Mako warns that if this toxicity spills across the nation, it will cause massive casualties. To stop this disaster, Lion suggests they set up regular patrols. That very night, the trio heads out for their rounds and spots some Saber Guild mages. Lion recalls Jean mentioning they would deploy reinforcements to secure the area. Right then, an emergency siren begins to blare. Gate has opened 5 kilometers to the southwest. The Saber mages instantly rush off, and Lion's squad follows closely behind them. Reaching the city, they witness the monsters unleashing pure, unbridled chaos everywhere, right before their eyes. A beast prepares to devour a child, but Lion instantly cuts it down using dark magic. The grateful mother and child thank him for saving their lives. Soon, the Saber mages catch up. Lion suggests they clear the streets outside while his crew prepares to conquer the gate itself, but first they consult with those Saber mages. The squad reveals they already sent scouts inside but lost contact with them entirely. Narus asks about a rescue mission, but the mages admit there is none, since their focus is containing the loose monsters and evacuating citizens. They simply lack the necessary manpower. Hearing this, Lion firmly announces they are going in. An officer tries to stop them, protesting that they are only academy students. Luckily, Janice arrives right on time and commands the guards to let them pass, praising their bravery to the entire crowd. Once they step inside the gate, they are greeted by a thick fog that completely blinds them. Still, the squad prepares for immediate battle. Lion fires up his team, urging them to unleash their full power for their very first official guild mission. Deeper inside, they discover several slain beasts taken down by the squad that went ahead. They follow the trail, praying they will find those survivors alive. Lion grows concerned, sensing that the gate's boss is incredibly strong, yet he remains determined. Makoto is highly confident, and she and Narus want to prove their own strength, so Lion will not have to shoulder the burden alone. Meanwhile, those Saber mages are fighting for their lives against the boss. They throw elemental attacks, but the beast effortlessly nullifies their magic. 2 party members are severely injured while shielding their vulnerable teammate. The creature raises its arm for a fatal strike, but Lion and his team arrive in the very nick of time. Lion severs the monster's tentacles with dark magic, stunning the rescued fighters who see their saviors are mere teenagers. Makoto quickly analyzes the beast and realizes it is a giant slime, meaning its fatal weak point is the core. She and Narus rush forward to strike, but the slime outmaneuvers and traps them in its body. Right as the creature prepares to dissolve them, Lion unleashes dark magic to free his allies, recognizing that this monster is far deadlier than they first anticipated. Lion takes the lead. Charging forward with absolute power, he slices the beast in half with one decisive slash. The Saber mages watch in complete shock as the dungeon collapses, allowing the entire group to return home safely. The Saber mages thank Leon and his clan for the rescue, admitting that without their help, the subjugation squad would have been wiped out. Leon, however, insists there is no need to thank him. They only did what had to be done. The raid leader then takes the opportunity to apologize for looking down on them, admitting he had written them off as mere kids. That night, Luna beams with pride over the clan's newfound reputation, showering Leon with praise for their incredible achievement. The Saber mages were so incredibly grateful that they even invited Leon to join their ranks right after he graduates from the academy. Just then, a sudden knock echoes on the door. When Leon opens it, he is shocked to see Makoto so late at night. Worried, he asks if something is wrong. Blushing furiously, Makoto asks if they can speak in private. She then begs Leon to train her in magic, confessing she hates feeling so useless compared to her peers and desperately needs his help. Leon completely understands her drive, remembering the time she was cornered and couldn't do a thing. Feeling completely helplessness, he tells That setback was unavoidable, but she doesn't want someone to just comfort he agrees to coach her on one condition. He calls all the shots during training. Makoto eagerly agrees and thanks him. Smiling to himself, Leon notes that such straightforward determination is classic Makoto. Out on the training field, Leon suggests they get to work immediately, and she agrees. Suddenly, Narus appears and requests to join their sessions. Makoto teases him, asking if he is also looking to get private tutoring from the star student, which makes him blush, observing them. Leon realizes Narus is just as hungry for growth as Makoto. Narus points out that as a team, they cannot let Leon leave them in the dust, so they must do everything together. Leon notes that both of them already possess excellent control over their mana and have mastered the basics. However, he warns that they must correct their bad habits first, leaving them both completely puzzled. Using Makoto to illustrate, Leon explains that she tends to recklessly charge. Head of her team, she reluctantly realizes he is right, and Leon adds that she focuses too narrowly, which creates dangerous blind spots. As for Narus, Leon tells him he has to start planning his movements much sooner. Puzzled, Narus asks him to clarify what he means by that. Leon explains that a true fighter always prepares for the absolute worst-case scenario, bringing up how Makoto handled the beast earlier. He points out that Narus should have known the monsters would target him the very second he rushed after her. Narus nods, confessing he completely panicked in the heat of battle. Leon explains that while academy training is controlled and predictable, real combat throws too many unpredictable variables at you, forcing you to adapt. On the fly, he adds that Narus must widen his situational awareness to get used to actual battle, and that will require serious, focused practice. Right. Then a shadow wolf materializes before them. Leon explains it is merely one of his creations and totally harmless, instructing Narus to practice dodging it. While firing off spells, the duo take their stances and begin training. After a brutal session, Leon decides it is time to take a break. Narus agrees, and Leon tells Makoto she needs to rest as well. Narus guesses that Makoto's intense drive stems from her duty as class president, which puzzles Leon. Narus explains that the highly prestigious Asumiya family has produced elite mages. What's more, they are currently fighting on the front lines of the gates, and one will lead the vanguard. The coming war, that explains her massive sense of responsibility. Remembering Makoto's desire to fight those who threaten their world, Leon finally understands her drive. Narus adds that given her personality, the burden is even heavier, which inspired him to get stronger. He apologizes for their last battle, but warns Leon that he still refuses to lose to him. Luna teases that Narus is just terrible at being honest with himself, and Leon easily agrees. Leon calls them back to resume their training. Meanwhile, the academy principal watches from his office window. 1 month later, the group charges a massive monster as it swings a club. Leon warns them to focus on the main body right as the giant orc smashes the ground. Beneath them, dropping from above, Leon swings his scythe and slices the monster's arms clean off. Seeing the limbs fall, Narus looks back while moving forward, but the monster surprises everyone by suddenly regenerating and instantly regrowing its severed arm. The beast lunges, but they dodge. Mid-air, both mages unleash their magic, firing directly at the frozen beast. The destructive blast hits, and the monster collapses heavily to the ground. As the party celebrates their victory, watching from afar, a mysterious man smiles and notes that Leon is achieving great things. He reflects that no matter the era, the world always cries out for a savior. Gazing across a quiet garden, he contemplates that his dark experiment is nearly complete. Muttering that he cannot wait to finally meet Leon. Nearby, people hand out newspapers with the latest headlines. Inside, a red-haired student discusses their latest dungeon accomplishments. His friend chiming in adds that the president and vice president of the committee have formed a new club. He explains that rumors about Saber's evolution are spreading fast, making them quite famous among the other mages. Moments later, the red-haired boy notices Leon is also in the headlines. His friend playfully teases him, recalling the time Leon completely thrashed him, which embarrasses the young student. Thinking back, he admits he still cannot fathom Leon's strength. His companion points out that the class presidents are training beside him, suggesting that might be his secret. Sighing, the red-haired boy admits Leon is on a completely different level now. His friend then points toward the cafeteria where they spot Lion sitting with his friends. In busy cafeteria, Makoto mentions they are drawing a lot of attention, and Narus explains it is simply due to their recent achievements. A group of girls shyly approaches Leon. One of them thanks him, leaving him confused, explaining that her family lived right next to where a portal opened. Thanks to him, they all made it out safely. She bows deeply in gratitude. Catching Lion completely off guard, this sudden moment triggers memories of his past. He recalls villagers thanking him for heroic deeds, the endless gratitude he received from powerful empire leaders and commoners alike, and kids looking up. They look up to him as a role model. He realizes that even in another world, nothing changes. Nearby, other students whisper that the guy is basically a hero now. The red-haired kid remarks that even the worst students can make a real difference, while the school bully watches from a corner and walks away grumbling. Eventually, the group finally manages to slip away from the noisy crowd. Leon asks why the principal called them in, but nobody has any clue. Luna is dying of curiosity the moment they step inside. The principal welcomes them, praising their incredible performance. He then turns to Narus and Mikoto, pointing out how surprisingly much they have grown. They reply that it is all thanks to Leon's intense training. Then Mikoto asks the principal what this meeting is really about. He tells them to follow him, explaining they are taking a quick trip to the Saber branch. Once inside the car, the teens ask if they are actually meeting the branch's famous vice leader. The principal nods, explaining that the man personally asked to see them. Leon asks Narus if he knows him. Narus nods and describes him, calling Ray a young prodigy who is considered one of Saber's absolute best. Mikoto adds that he was the first student council president, completely undefeated in mock battles. After joining Saber, Ray became unstoppable. The dungeons clearing countless gates. Mikoto wonders why someone like him would want to see them, but the principal just tells her to relax. She will find out soon enough. Leon remains lost in thought for the rest of the ride. Arriving at Saber's 7th branch, the principal leads the group to Ray's office, where he is waiting on the couch. Ray welcomes them, saying they must be the students from the rumors. He lists their recent achievements, explaining that he simply had to meet them in person after hearing all about their crazy battle achievements. Ray walks up to Leon and asks if he is not happy, seeing his attitude. Both Leon and Luna instantly realize this guy is incredibly arrogant. Ray reaches out to shake Leon's hand, saying it is good to meet him. But the moment Leon takes his hand, he is hit by a terrifying aura, leaving him wondering what the hell that was. While his friends call out, Ray notices that Leon felt his heavy aura and thinks to himself that the kid is interesting. He tells Leon not to get so defensive, claiming he only released some energy to give him a little scare. Ray admits his original plan was just to say hello and send them away, but he has changed his mind. Now he wants a quick match with Leon. Down in the training grounds, Ray remarks that fighting without a crowd is kind of boring, but it will have to do. He adds that with nobody else around, Leon can use his true power. Leon just watches him silently, staying on high alert. Just before heading to the arena, Leon had asked why they were even fighting. Ray simply replied that he is obsessed with combat, and since Leon has such exceptional talent, he wanted to see what the kid is made of, asking if Leon was up for the challenge. Now, back in the present, Leon thinks about how impressive Ray must be to stand out in a massive group like Saber. Saber recalls the exact second he felt that crushing, suffocating dread from his opponent. Observing from the sidelines, the principal remarks that Rai hasn't changed a bit. Meanwhile, Makoto points out how incredibly eager the warrior looks to start the battle. The principal figures Rai is simply testing Lion's limits right now. He wants to see what the boy can bring to Saber's elite combat team. A blonde ally worries it will be a brutal fight, but Makoto quickly disagrees. She insists anything is possible with him. Rai conjures a deadly fireball. Calling it a simple endurance test, he hurls the blazing projectile straight at Lion. Lion expects an easy block against basic fire magic, but Rai warns him otherwise. A devastating explosion suddenly detonates right where the young mage was standing. Onlookers watch in utter horror as the blinding blast consumes their friend completely. But within the smoke, Rai senses a sudden threat and narrowly avoids a counterattack. He is stunned to find Lion standing right there before him, completely unharmed. Rai realizes his clever opponent deployed an ice barrier to tank the explosion. Using the resulting steam as a smoke screen, the move only thrills Rai further. He is ecstatic to face such talent. Watching closely, Makoto is completely amazed. She praises his reflexes, but wonders how a basic spell caused such immense damage. The principal explains that Rai secretly launched a second spell right after the first. That hidden strike triggered the blast. Observing the battle, Narus begins to wonder. She questions just how massive the power gap really is between the two. Rai calls for round 2, conjuring fierce tornadoes that rip up the earth. As the windstorms barrel toward Lion, he recognizes their incredible, devastating force. This magic surpasses even the legendary archmages he encountered in his past life. Acting quickly, he leaps clean over the vortexes, soaring high into the sky. He prepares to strike as a massive torrent of water forms around Rai. Rai senses the terrifying speed of the incoming deluge and barely manages to dodge. Anticipating the escape, Lion immediately prepares his next strike, trapping his target. Since Rai is airborne, he fires a relentless barrage of magical projectiles. Yet Rai incredibly evades them all, using floating debris as stepping stones. Lion is stunned. Rai keeps charging forward, leaping across the shattered rocks. He summons a magical blade to strike, prompting Lion to do the exact same. Their weapons clash violently, sending both warriors skidding back across the arena. Lion regains his footing, waiting. Rai offers rare praise for the boy's skills. He wonders aloud if the young mage is keeping a secret trump card hidden away. Ready to unleash his full power, Rai challenges Lion to show his true potential. Accepting the terms, Lion summons a flickering purple flame onto his open palm. He vows to unleash his real power, prompting Rai to smirk in amusement. Lion calmly responds that keeping it a secret was never his true intention. He simply thought victory was assured without it. Rai watches with intense focus. He recognizes this unique energy as the mysterious attribute from the secret reports. Utterly thrilled, he admits he has never witnessed such rare power before. High in the stands, the director questions if this is Lion's true strength. But Makoto tells him to watch closely, as the real show is starting. Down on the battlefield, Rai readies himself for the boy's ultimate strike. He charges forward at full speed, forcing Lion to unleash his hidden trump card. The clash shatters Rai's skill completely, leaving him in total shock. Rai backs away and stares at his sword, shocked to see it. Sliced clean in half, despite being reinforced with high-class metal, he stares at Lion, wondering if this is his opponent's true power. Lion notices. The reaction impressed that even against a brand new technique. Rai kept his absolute focus and intensity. Rai praises Lion once more. Asking if he has any more tricks like that hidden away, Lion plays dumb. Saying maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, Rai lets out a sarcastic laugh. Noting that Lion is unlike any ordinary kid, fully determined, Raggy declares it is time for the final round, summoning another massive tornado, unleashing his full power. From the stands, Makoto points out he is using 2 different elements simultaneously, which is incredibly rare. Luna adds that mastering a single attribute is tough, but mastering 2 is on a whole different level. Ready to strike, Rai dares Leon to try blocking this attack. Chanting his spell, he infuses the winds with raging flames that completely swallow Leon. Seeing the scale of this strike, Leon knows it is impossible to deflect or read the wildfire. He slams his scythe into the ground, gathers a massive surge of dark energy in his hands, launching it directly at Rai's strike. Leon thrusts his hands into the blaze, forcing the flames apart, clearing a path without taking a single scratch. The crowd is stunned and Rai cannot believe his eyes, wondering how Leon nullified a dual element spell with simple dark magic. Rai realizes this requires insane precision to pull off. This kind of master control is far beyond any ordinary student. Still, he is thrilled that a mage like this actually exists. Rai walks over to Leon to end the match, admitting he is impressed. Lion managed to block his dual element spell, which is no minor feat. Leon asks if the test is over. Rai says no, but warns the building would collapse if they kept fighting. He warns Lion not to assume he won, but acknowledges his skills and promises they will settle this later. Meanwhile, Luna brags about Lion's complete dominance. Raggy offers the young man a job, but Lion only smirks. Makoto walks over and praises his performance. Rai gets an idea, asking if the 3 of them have started a clan. When they confirm they He seizes the opportunity to hand them a mission right. Way later, at a different location, the group discusses the distribution of gates managed by the Saber Group. Leon silently notes that Saber definitely has access to far more data than him. Makoto asks if Rai simply wants them trolling the designated areas, but he quickly shakes his head. He points to a spot on the map and asks if they spot anything strange. The group says no, pointing out there are 0 gates there. Rai explains that is exactly the point. Gates have emerged everywhere except for that single region. Feeling a bit nervous, Narus considers this and agrees. Leon gets straight to the point, asking if there is something unique about that area, which Raggy confirms. He explains he already sent some of his team there, but they found absolutely nothing. Because of this, he asks if they are interested in investigating area themselves. Let us watch as they exchange quick glances before Makoto and Narus nods in agreement. With their approval, Leon makes the final call and accepts the job. At sunset, Leon and his crew arrive, ready to begin their investigation. Makoto mentions that nothing seems out of the ordinary, suggesting they ask the locals if they have noticed anything unusual. They begin their search, questioning residents about any strange events, but come up empty-handed. Suddenly, Luna mutters something, catching Leon's attention. She explains that she felt a bizarre presence, which instantly sparks his curiosity, pointing toward an alleyway right ahead, claiming that is where it is coming from. Soon, as they step into the alley, Makoto and Narus press Leon about why they are heading this way. He simply says he felt something strange around here while double-checking the details with Luna, sensing some kind of supernatural energy. Leon decides it is best to play it safe and use his powers. He unleashes his dark energy to see if it reveals a path. Sure enough, the group is shocked to find a massive staircase. Luna wonders if this is where that supernatural energy is hiding. Leon turns to the others, asking if they are coming along. Makoto replies that they do not really have a choice. Let us follow them down. On the way, Narus and Makoto wonder what could possibly be waiting at the bottom. Suddenly, Leon spots the end of the stairs and freezes, staring at a massive field of crimson flowers. Luna asks what kind of flowers they are, but he has absolutely no clue. Walking a bit further, Leon spots the exact same devices Shido used to control the portals. Confused, Narus asks if Shido was not locked up by Saber, and Makoto confirms it. This leaves Leon wondering if someone else managed to get their hands on that device. Suddenly, an intruder alert blares, triggering the defense system. A massive robot materializes right in front of them, catching everyone off guard. Makoto warns them that whatever this machine is, they are the targets, and yells for everyone to get ready to fight. The robot fires a massive energy beam, but they dodge just in time. The machine gears up for another strike, trying to slash them with its claws, but misses. Leon orders his team to flank and focus on its weak spots. Makoto charges her ice magic while Narus preps a lightning spell. Leon waits for the perfect opening to unleash his dark magic. They launch a combined strike, hitting the robot from all sides, and its metallic body crashes to the floor. With the threat dealt with, Leon says he is ready to destroy the device, but before he can, a mysterious voice interrupts him, warning him not to ruin their garden. Shocked, Leon spins around only to realize his surroundings have completely shifted. Confused, he wonders what just happened while Luna looks at him with deep worry. Suddenly, the owner of the voice appears, saying they have finally met. Leon demands to know who this person is. Luna warns Leon that this figure's energy feels like an otherworldly force. Leon cannot believe his ears as memories of his past life suddenly start rushing back. With pure rage in his eyes, he finally recognizes the man standing before him. It is Shark, saying it is good to finally meet him. Leon asks how he knows his name, and the man explains he received a report from Leon's former master, Shido. Hearing this, Leon realizes Shido truly is connected to Shark. Luna calls out his name in worry, but Leon quickly reassures her. He locks his gaze on Shark, the villain who stole his most precious treasure in the world. He was finally facing his ultimate nemesis, the monster who killed the child he considered family, the target of his deepest desire for absolute revenge. Leon realizes Shark still has no idea what is hidden inside him, yet he also fails to fully grasp the true scale of his enemy's power. While Luna prays for his safety, Shark admits he was surprised that a mere student managed to defeat a guardian. Leon demands answers about the red flowers and Shark's plans for the gate. Manifesting device, Shark scoffs, saying he has no reason to answer, calling it all an absolute waste of time, suddenly unleashing a crushing pressure on Leon, the young man wonders what kind of attribute this is, and Shark reveals it is light magic, a holy element he can wield completely alone. Leon recalls that the villain lacked this power in the previous world, wondering if Belfar had something to do with it. To Leon, the thought of someone like Shark wielding holy light is a sick joke, and he simply clenches his fist in response. Instantly, Shark summons a blade of light out of thin air, asking if they should begin. Leon notes that this is no ordinary spell by modern magical standards. He decides to summon his own energy, shaping it into a deadly scythe to prove he is not the only one wielding a special element. Shark is fascinated by Leon's strange attribute. He mentions the intelligence only spoke of a mage wielding 4 elements, but it seems the brat can do much more. Swinging his blade, the villain remarks that things just got interesting, but Leon refuses to waste breath, charging forward at full speed. Shark lunges with deadly thrust, but Leon's afterimage is already past him, appearing directly behind the foe. Leon swings down in a heavy vertical slash. Shark quickly leaps back, praising his opponent's agility. Leon wonders what he is planning by putting so much distance between them, but Shark suddenly closes the gap at terrifying speed, aiming his sword right at Leon's eye. The strike triggers a massive burst of light. Leon dodges by barely tilting his head, though a shallow cut on his cheek begins to bleed. Shark praises the boy's unbelievable reflexes. Leon realizes that taking a direct hit from that power would be fatal. The monster comments on how well Leon fights, adding that his strength would normally bring hope to anyone trying to save the world. He then confesses that he absolutely loathes heroes, and that putting an end to people like him is what brings him the deepest joy. Leon is stunned by the statement. Furious, he drops his scythe and tells the monster not to joke around. He then summons raging flames in both hands, determined never to repeat his past mistakes. Shark wonders why he discarded his weapon, but decides he simply needs to strike first. At that precise moment, Leon uses his dark energy tribute to manifest dozens of chains, skewering Shark's body at lightning speed. The villain is left in shock, completely unable to comprehend what happened. Leon instantly flashes right in front of him, scythe back in hand, declaring the end. In the middle of the fight, his blade slashes Shark, only to pass straight through the foe's body, which dissolves into blinding light. Laughing, Shark reveals that this physical form was merely an illusion. They will cross paths again very soon. Next time, Shark vows to settle the score and face Leon in his real body. Leon stares upward as the adrenaline slowly fades. Suddenly, he snaps awake to his friends calling out. Neris quickly reassures him that he is fine, while Io demands to know what went down. Leon tells them they will talk later and must escape immediately. Inside, he warns himself that Shark had better watch his back, because next time they are absolutely settling their grudge. Days after the battle, Leon reflects on how they could not find a single trace of Shark. Luna mentions it would be amazing to track down his true form, but they failed. Even so, she cheerfully points out they will have plenty of opportunities ahead, and Leon agrees. She then mentions how insanely powerful their enemy was, but has absolute faith that Leon's strength reigns supreme, and that he will ultimately triumph. Leaving the young warrior lost in thought, Luna asks what is troubling him, so Leon opens up. He got his dark magic down in the dark abyss, which she claimed was a gift from the goddess herself. Why, he wonders, would a divine force be shadow-based? Making him question the true origin of his ability. Luna instantly reads his doubts, explaining that thick, dark magic particles saturated the abyss. In that dark void, those elements could easily dissolve a body or cause someone to lose complete control. Hearing this, Leon remembers feeling that exact sensation back then. Luna explains that the magic he wields is just the dark energy his body absorbed, which took root since those black particles only exist inside the abyss itself. Leon realizes why the deity utilized them. Luna then mentions she was restricted to sending basic messages to him back then, making Leon realize those strange, unreadable glyphs he once saw were actually her words. She goes on to say that against all odds, he forged that magic into his own unbending strength. Since Leon survived that brutal underworld filled with dark magic, he truly became its ultimate transcendent. Luna Admits she watched his entire journey, seeing him lose the orphans he called family and battle countless monsters entirely alone. She felt his immense suffering, but explains that until the goddess opened the gate, she was powerless to intervene, declaring herself the goddess's angel. Luna tells Lion she wants him to save this world, but her deepest desire is simply to see his own deep wishes come true. Reflecting, Leon says he understands but notes he is currently just borrowing this vessel and still has unfinished business to settle. Thanking Luna, he vows he will destroy Shark no matter what. Smiling, she promises, "Of course I will help you." Right then, Leon's cell phone rings, leaving them both utterly stunned to see who is calling. At the front desk, Leon greets Rigai, who notes that he seems to be in high spirits. Sitting down, Leon asks what is going on and Rai says he simply wanted to share some news. When an intrigued Leon asks for details, he hesitates. After a moment, Rai's phone rings and he asks Leon for a quick second. Explaining that his subordinates are calling, he answers and asks what is going on, only for his team to reveal that a blue-grade portal has just appeared. Annoyed, Rai snaps that they should easily handle this situation without his help. But his staff member explains that the portal appeared in a highly specific location. Arriving at the scene, Leon is shocked to see a gate sitting right in the middle of the city. A man approaches and Rai starts asking for a status report but suddenly clutches his chest in sharp pain. The director bends down to inspect the ground and notices something strange with Rai. Realizing it must be the effect of that flower, Leon asks what the hell is going on, and Rai explains this was exactly what he wanted to discuss earlier. Rai pulls out a small vial, and Leon asks if that is the sample they recovered from the underground facility. Rai confirms it, explaining that Saber just finished analyzing it and discovered the flower can actually drain mana from mages. Makoto is shocked, and Rai admits he did not even know something like this existed. Narus points out someone who has collapsed nearby, and Rai adds that it is likely the flower's doing. However, he notes that the effect does not seem to work on people whose mana is above a certain threshold, though at this rate, evacuating ordinary civilians is going to be incredibly difficult. Leon looks at his companions, and they all share the exact same thought. As they start to head out, Ray calls after them. But Leon tells him he is leaving the outside world in his hands, saying it is best to have someone they trust managing things out here. With a sigh, Ray concedes, telling Leon to make sure he closes that gate for good, which everyone agrees to. Inside the dungeon, the group treks through the snow. Looking up, they realize this place looks nothing like a blue-grade portal. Thinking back to what the flower does, Leon figures Shark must have something to do with this. Clenching his fist, Leon thinks to himself that no matter what the guy is planning, he will stop him. He tells the group it is time to move, and they set off. Soon, Narus is struggling against the harsh blizzard and collapses, while Leon lands a magic attack right on a monster's chest. Exhausted, Narus admits he did not expect things to get this bad. At first, everything was going smoothly after they entered the gate, with the group easily pushing forward and clearing out enemies until they ran into the boss. Analyzing their opponent, Narus realized it seemed like a standard blue-grade boss. Its attacks were powerful, but it moved slowly. Because of that, Leon decided to throw it off balance to take it down. Right then, the boss lunged forward, slamming its fist into the ground with massive force. Leon fires a fire arrow straight into the monster's nose, quickly following up with another to its leg, throwing it off balance. Narus charges in with an electric bow in hand, while Makoto flanks the enemy from the other side. Descending from above, Leon declares it is time to finish this and lands a direct hit right on the monster's head, but suddenly the creature's chest glows, releasing a blinding light that blows them all back, forcing Leon to he anchors himself with his weapon as Makoto rushes over to ask if Leon is okay. Suddenly, Leon spots something weird. Red flowers have blanketed the battlefield, and the beast is draining their energy. Watching this unfold, Naru starts to wonder what the boss is planning, right as the monster locks its hands together and fires tracking beams of light. One of those lasers strikes the team, knocking them flat on their backs. Struggling up, Narus realizes a frost giant shouldn't wield magic like that, left wondering how any of this is possible. Luna checks to see if Leon is hurt, and he nods. Turning around, Leon asks how the rest of the squad is doing, and Makoto says they survived that devastating blast. Looking ahead, Leon realizes that this kind of raw power definitely does not belong to a blue-grade boss, wondering if the flower triggered this massive buff. He knows another attack like that will wipe them out completely. Gritting his teeth, he yells that they must shatter the core, immediately unleashing his dark magic, ruinous pressure. Thrilled, Makoto cheers, believing it worked, but Naru shuts her down, showing her that the boss's core is still completely untouched. Lion realizes the monster's defense has skyrocketed, meaning they will need a much stronger spell. Luna suggests he cast that high-level spell from before, noticing the look on Lion's face. Makoto asks if he has a strategy. He tells her there is one spell, but he will need some precious time to pool his mana. Makoto offers to hold the line, insisting they can still fight. Naru tells Lion they are counting on him for the finishing strike, and Lion promises he will deliver, charging at the beast. They declare it is go time. The giant golem swings a heavy smash while Lion concentrates deeply on summoning two contrasting fires. The others realize his plan. Right then, the boss prepares to unleash that same deadly ultimate attack, but Makoto and Narus declare they will block it. Just as the monster readies that strange magic, Leon triggers his ultimate fusion magic. Lion whips up a swirling vortex of energy and launches it straight at the boss. Watching the blast, the party realizes it combines both darkness and fire, the exact signature move of Reggie, the Vice Branch leader. The resulting explosion is massive, completely obliterating the golem. Watching Lion land amidst the monster's remains, his teammates cannot help but marvel that he is on an entirely different level. While Luna celebrates their victory, Leon reflects that they somehow managed to pull through despite their success. He is seriously worried, wondering what will happen if this red flower plague is spreading to other dungeon gates as well. Meanwhile, in a dark chamber, a mysterious man notes that even the monsters powered up by the flower were beaten, smiling before a dark ritual. He decides it is time to trigger the final phase, birthing the demon King Belelfar. A few days after their clash, Leon and his team keep fighting non-stop against dungeon bosses. Word quickly spreads that the red flower does not just drain mana, it heavily buffs monsters. This discovery terrifies the entire world, triggering mass evacuations. The academy students are also forced to flee the area, with Principal Janice advising them to relocate to another safe district. Meanwhile, at the Saber Branch, Rai prepares a massive fleet of mages. He declares he cannot just watch from the sidelines while even students are out there fighting, ordering his army to mobilize immediately. Under Rai's command, Saber's forces join hands with Lion to handle the threat. After clearing yet another dungeon gate, Lion and his team celebrate their hard-won victory, knowing Saber's backup was a total lifesaver. Leon reflects that clearing gates has gotten much harder since the Crimson Flower emerged. Luna points out that Shark is surely behind all of this, and Lion completely agrees. Makoto then asks how long this brutal grind is going to last, and Narus admits it is getting tough to keep up. Leon stays quiet, remembering Shark's promise to settle their score, wondering what kind of trap the enemy is plotting next. Later that night, Leon notices something strange. He spots magical projectiles clashing as several students unleash their powers in a late-night training session. Leon wonders why so many of them are gathered here when they were supposed to evacuate the area. Just then, Principal Janice spots Leon's group in the crowd. He mentions reading the report about Leon's team taking down a high-ranking enemy earlier today. Leon waves off the praise and asks the principal about the kids. Janice explains that they actually volunteered to fight. Deeply inspired by Leon himself, instead of running, they begged to learn how to survive a real battle, and the principal simply could not turn them down. As the students continue their tough training under Leon's deeply satisfied gaze, Naru silently reflects on their brave choice to step onto the battlefield. Makoto notes they cannot complain, since having more hands on deck will surely help their cause. She then points out the real reason everyone is so motivated is Leon. She highlights how he went from the lowest-ranked student at the academy to absolutely dominating, which serves as a massive inspiration too. Everyone admitting he even motivated her. Suddenly, Naru spots something strange, drawing everyone's attention to the training field. They are shocked to see Macabe training furiously alongside the other students. Luna and Lion are completely stunned. On the field, a classmate warns Macabe not to overwork himself, but he tells him to shut up. Macabe declares this is not Enough swearing he refuses to lose to Lion ever again. He then tells his friend to hurry up so they can start the next drill. Narus points out that Macabe is yet another person Leon has deeply influenced, making Lion feel quite proud. Thinking back to the previous owner of his body, Leon thinks that if Kuroba had actually awakened, he would be proud of what Lion has achieved in this world. Suddenly, an eerie purple energy floods the entire training ground, catching Lion completely off guard. Narus panics, asking what that energy is, while the students and the headmaster watch in total confusion and terror. Luna points something out to Lion, shocking him. Crimson flowers are blooming rapidly, completely taking over the training ground. Then, several portals rip open and countless monsters start pouring out. Leon immediately realizes this can only be the work of one man. Atop a nearby building, a figure watches the chaos unfold. It is Shark, muttering that harvest time has finally arrived. Down below, students scream in pure terror as monsters flood out of the portals. Just then, one boy grabs his neck, writhing in agonizing pain as he collapses. His friend asks what is wrong, and the fallen boy gasps out that the red flowers are draining his mana. To make things worse, a pack of hungry wolves closes in, leaving the boy in absolute despair. But Leon and his team show up just in time, easily clearing the beasts. Leon lands and asks the students if they are safe, telling them to leave the rest to his allies. Mikoto points out that this entire situation is bizarre. Narus agrees, but insists they cannot give up yet. Meanwhile, Leon studies the strange red flowers and the sudden wave of portals. Luna shouts out to him, warning him that she has detected a powerful signature nearby. It is Shark. Gritting his teeth, Leon realizes his nemesis is actually here. He recalls what Shidu warned about the students being food, and wonders if the mana stolen by those flowers is fueling a greater threat. Noticing Leon is lost in thought, Narus asks what is wrong. Leon explains that he senses the dark mage they fought back in the underground facility, and that he is likely pulling the strings. Narus asks if he means the villain Leon clashed with before, and Makoto grows worried, realizing a threat that deadly is targeting the academy. Leon is certain this is all part of Shark's scheme. Hearing this, Narus and Makoto tell him to leave this battlefield and go on ahead. Leon tries to protest, but they just smile and say he wouldn't listen to them anyway. They ask if hunting down global threats was not his mission from the start, then charge into battle, leaving him behind while unleashing their magic. The brave duo begins carving through the wolf pack. Giant Snake tries to catch Narus off guard, but Leon, who is still there, uses his shadow magic to blast it. He warns that they are pushing themselves way too hard, and Luna warns that waves of enemies are still coming. Suddenly, the headmaster arrives, telling them not to fear, unleashing a high-level earth spell called Crushing Pressure. The headmaster completely obliterates the giant serpent and the wolves. Dusting off his shoulders, the powerful headmaster vows that as long as he stands, no student will be harmed. Just then a gigantic golem steps through a portal, catching Leon off guard. Macabe charges the beast head-on, backing away after delivering a heavy strike. Turning to Leon, Macabe reveals he overheard their talk and asks if the mastermind behind this invasion is really here. Leon tries to speak, but Macabe stops him with a stern look, saying he knows Leon has excuses, but should just listen. Macabe admits he underestimated Leon, and to Leon's surprise, he actually apologizes. He tells Leon to go ahead and end this, since Leon is by far the strongest among them. Reassuring him, the headmaster promises that reinforcements are arriving soon, so Leon does not need to worry about this area. Leon smiles, clenches his fist, and heads off, telling them he understands perfectly as he races up the stairs. Reaching the roof of the building, Leon finally spots Shark and shouts his name in fury. The blonde villain smiles, amused that the hero showed up so quickly. Demanding answers, Leon asks if he is behind this chaos and what his goal is. Shark replies that it is simple, everything is for the harvest. He asks if Leon truly does not know what those red flowers do, revealing that they are he is absorbing mana to resurrect the Demon King, a revelation that shocks Leon. Shark continues, declaring that once the Demon King is revived, he will grant him ultimate power as part of the ritual. Right then, Leon realizes that Shark is definitely connected to Belfar. Shark explains he conducted countless experiments and preparations to pull this off, but a certain annoying anomaly kept interfering. Now he finally understands it. Confused by his words, Leon wonders who this guy actually is. Shark then declares he knows exactly who Leon is, asking if he actually came from another world, addressing him by his true name, Leon Clean. The blonde man is thrilled by his shocked expression. Leon demands to know how long he has known. Shark admits he felt something was off ever since Shidu's report arrived, finding it weird that weak students suddenly had such a massive awakening. He adds their recent clash confirmed his suspicions, because Leon's magic felt exactly like the presence he felt back in that cave. Furious, Leon accuses him of trying to conquer the other world, demanding to know what he is doing here. Shark just scoffs, asking if that even matters, noting how much Leon hates him. Shark says they should begin, asking if Leon wants him to send the other students to hell first. Silent, Leon draws his sigh, then declares he is ready. Shark vows that this time he is going to show Leon what real hell looks like. He laughs, calling Leon feisty, but warns him not to get frustrated when he realizes he cannot win. Leon leaps into the air and strikes directly down on Shark's magic circle. Shark admits the pressure is impressive, but says he has seen this trick before and promises it will not work this time. He fires a golden beam, which Leon struggles to block. Shark mocks him, boasting that this power is on a completely different level compared to when he fought his clone. Shark fires another blast, explaining that this is his light attribute magic. The attack sends Leon flying, forcing him to drop his weapons and cough up blood. Luna asks if he is all right, while Leon struggles to understand that magic circle. Overhearing him, Shark explains it is an absolute barrier, a perfect defense that blocks all magic, telling Leon to die a miserable death. Leon raises his hand, refusing to submit, and shoots chains at him, but the chains are instantly blocked by the barrier, shocking Leon. Shark tells him his efforts are useless and fires another photon. Leon tries to defend himself with his mirror of rejection, but the spell pierces straight through, leaving him stunned. The devastating attack completely obliterates the area in front of Shark. As the smoke clears, Leon is somehow still standing. Shark smirks, noticing that Leon barely managed to avoid a direct hit to a vital organ. He concludes that not even Leon's magic could block a beam like that. As Leon collapses completely exhausted, he desperately searches for his next move, preparing another spell. Shark comments that Leon won't be able to dodge this time, sensing the danger. Luna panics. She hates just standing by on the sidelines once again, and decides she must take action, just as Shark smiles and declares it is time to end this. Luna rushes forward and grabs his arm. Leon watches in shock as she puts herself in danger. Irritated, Shark warns her to stay back and ruthlessly flings her aside, sending her crashing across the hard ground. Leon watches in horror as his ally slams into the dirt. Shark asks if she is his partner, but says it does not matter. Shark's eyes glow, radiating a massive surge of energy, declaring he will bury them all together. Leon knows if this next strike lands, it is over, not just for him but for Luna and the others. He asks himself if he is really destined to lose everything again, even in this new world. He resolves to fight on. Dragging himself up, Leon realizes he has one final move left despite the extreme risk. Seeing his determination, Shark asks if he is actually going to die protecting that kid, mocking his predictable heroism. With a sneer, Shark declares it is Leon's end and fires another laser, but Leon stands his ground and takes the blast head-on. Shark smiles, believing he has won, but his smile fades instantly when he sees Leon still standing. Sensing the raw power, Shark is baffled to see Leon channeling light attribute magic, wondering how that is even possible. Luna notices something even more terrifying. She realizes Leon has fused his dark power with the light element, leaving her completely stunned. She remembers all the times Leon used his dark magic to drain mana from his opponents, but absorbing this much raw power is on a completely different level. She wonders just how much godlike precision it takes to pull off a stunt like that. Emerging from the smoke, Leon tells Shark that his gamble paid off and warns him to brace. Shark warns him not to get cocky, confident that his barrier is still up and impossible to break, but out of nowhere, that barrier is sliced clean in half with a single strike. Panicking, Shark desperately wonders how Leon managed to do that. Leon explains that since they both use the light element, Shark's barrier is completely useless against him. As the villain struggles to get back on guard, Leon warns him to get ready, because it is time to pay his That shark bursts out laughing, mocking Lion, saying that is expected of a hero. He managed to save the day again and exceed all expectations. However, pointing to the field of flowers nearby, Shark claims that Lion still cannot defeat him in his current state. Seeing this, Lion realizes the power buff the flowers grant to monsters also applies to Shark. The traitor boasts that this is the true power of a Belfar king. Lion deduces that Shark is using the power of Belfar Sama, which Shark proudly confirms, revealing he was recognized by the royals of his old world, and because of that, he chose to eliminate them. Hearing this, Lion remembers the people of his old world and mourns their deaths. Shark continues, mentioning how those two believed in Lion so much that they claimed he was still alive even after his rumored death. Because of their unwavering faith, Shark became a suspect and had to spill their blood right after. That Belfar's voice echoed in Shark's mind, promising him eternal life if he aided in his resurrection. With that promise, the traitor realized that this was the sole reason he came to this world, overflowing with magical energy. Hearing this twisted story, sparks begin to crackle around Leon. Clenching his fist, he demands to know how anyone could commit such horrible atrocities. Shark simply he lets out a mocking sneer, asking if the reason isn't already obvious. His sole motivation is a deep, burning hatred for Leon. Fuming with rage, Shark rants about how everyone always praised Leon, winning all the glory. In the king's absolute trust, acting like the god of their world, Leon's very existence completely overshadowed Shark, feeding his resentment. Because of that, he planned to wipe out everyone he hated to live forever, demanding to know what else could possibly satisfy him. Furious, Leon fires back that Shark has no right dragging innocent people into this. Born from his own ego, he's seen people truly fight for the sake of their companions, and Shark's cowardly ambition is nothing compared to the deep devotion of the people in this world. Gearing up, Leon vows he won't let the traitor steal anything else from him, determined to wipe this trash out right here and now. Shark cackles like a maniac. The death match begins as both ready their attacks. When Luna tries to intervene, Leon tells her to leave everything to him, promising victory no matter what. Shark summons a massive fireball, proclaiming the rise of his dynasty. Before unleashing his power, Leon vows he won't let his rival succeed, and tries to absorb the incoming blast with his own dark magic, triggering a violent clash that shakes the entire area. To counter, Shark unleashes another spell, believing he's dispelled Leon's dark energy. However, bright purple glow erupts from the center of the flames, and a precise blast pierces right through the fire, catching Shark completely off guard. Watching closely, Luna notices Leon is controlling his magic with a steady rhythm, shifting its intensity with every strike. Just like in his previous battles, this time the attack rushing towards Shark feels completely different. Leon declares it is the end of the line for his enemy. The blast tears through the wind, hitting Shark dead on, shredding his body. Even in his final moments, the traitor refuses to accept defeat. A blinding flash consumes the field. When the dust settles, only Leon and Luna remain standing. Back at the training grounds, people look up at the sky, noticing the strange flowers are starting to dissolve. Spotting a purple glow on the horizon, they realize Leon succeeded. Back at the battlefield, the young hero reverts to his original form. Luna happily calls out to him. Leon mutters that it has been a long journey, reflecting on how he chased Shark for so long, knowing the precious things he lost would never return. He waited so long to avenge his fallen comrades, realizing he might have been trapped in the past this entire time. Still, tears stream down his face as he realizes that finally justice has been served. Deeply moved, Luna cries by his side as they both watch the sunset. 2 days later, they are standing in front of a beautiful ocean. Luna remarks on how lovely it is, and Leon agrees. He remembers when his original world finally found peace, and how he and his old comrades had promised to see this ocean together. In the end, he could not even mourn them before leaving. Luna tries to comfort him, but Leon insists he is fine if he stays depressed forever. Those kids would probably just laugh at him. Gazing out at the open sea, he realized he only made it this far thanks to Kuroba Ren. Even though the man still had not regained consciousness, Leon wondered what would happen when he finally woke up. Despite the uncertainty, he felt only gratitude. Leon thought about all the people he had met here and how hard everyone had worked. Because of that, he felt there was still much Left to do, he called out to Luna to explain their next steps, but she cut him off, declaring she was obviously staying by his side. Leon was surprised by her lightning-fast response, and Luna smiled, explaining that she could always read his mind. Touched by her loyalty, he said they should get moving. Later, outside the academy, the students were congratulated for surviving the brutal crisis. Reggie stepped up to give a speech, saying their courageous actions deeply moved the elite members of Saber. He hoped this experience would build their confidence as they strive to become great mages. Finishing his speech, Rai moved to the main announcement and called forward the three students who had been notified beforehand. Mikoto, Narus, and Lion stepped forward. Rai announced that the three had been approved for early graduation and were officially accepted into Saber. The crowd of students whispered in shock about them joining such an elite group. Immediately, something completely unheard of in their world. While Macab watched and appreciated how far Leon had come, the principal let out a relieved sigh. Incredibly proud of his star student. Next, Reggie announced one more sudden update, instantly sparking curiosity. He went on to reveal that the recent disaster proved just how threatened they all were by the gates, and that their current defense system simply could not hold against these threats. Because of this, he had established a new elite squad called Special Operations. Several students wondered if the team would only consist of Sabers strongest fighters. Reggie ignored the whispers and explained that this was a specialized unit focused on combat, reconnaissance, and investigations, with himself as the captain. As a figure approached, Rai turned and made one final statement, revealing that he wanted Lion on this special operations squad. A while later, inside the branch office, Leon admitted he was shocked to receive no advance warning about the offer. Rai admitted he kept it quiet, specifically to surprise him. Still, he warned Lion that under his command, training would not be easy. Lion agreed, saying he looked forward to working with him. Internally, however, he felt anxious about the future, knowing that before their mission started, he had to go somewhere first. Leon stood up and asked his superior for some personal time before starting his new duties. Rai turned to Makoto, confused by the sudden request. She asked if this was about Leon's little sister, which Leon quietly confirmed. Rai was surprised to learn he had a sister, and Leon explained she was hospitalized, needed regular visits. Hearing this, Narus finally realized why the guy would suddenly vanish from time to time. Leon figured visiting her was the very least he could do, since his body's original owner absolutely adored his sister. Rai patted Leon on the chest, telling him he was cleared to. He let him go, saying he could join the squad later. Leon thanked him deeply. Moments later, Leon's phone rang with a call from the hospital. He quickly excused himself. He picked up. The voice on the other end said they finally reached the Guardian. They urged him to get there immediately because it was about his sister. There was an emergency. Minutes later, Leon was sprinting down the street. He sprinted down the hospital hallway and burst straight into her room. Leon announced he was her brother, demanding to know what was wrong. On the bed, his sister writhed in pain as the doctor tried calming him. They did emergency first aid, but she had advanced mana poisoning. She was in critical condition, leaving Leon frozen in deep thought. He knew this poisoning happens when magic particles infect someone without magic talent. That was exactly the case with his poor little sister. Modern medicine considered it incurable. The doctor told him to prepare. They were already expecting the worst. Walking down the hall, Luna approached. Luna asked what he planned to do now, and he gave the obvious answer. He would save his sister no matter what. His resolve stunned her. Leon realized that since the body's original owner gave up his life, saving this girl was now his absolute duty as her big brother. He recalled that the boy, Curabane, and his sister lost their parents to monsters. According to Curabane's diary, they had no other family and ended up orphaned. A year ago, pure despair took over the boy as he watched his sister on a stretcher. He was completely helpless as the ambulance left. He could only watch her slip into a coma. That was his turning point. He swore to become a mage, just to pay for her medical bills. But at his age, he faced constant bullying and disrespect instead. He was beaten down daily, feeling like his entire life was worthless. Under all that pain, his mind fractured. It all boiled over. The day a magic blast sent him crashing into a huge fountain. Pushed past his absolute limit, the boy felt entirely useless. Still, he prayed to anyone, even God, to save his precious sister. He couldn't protect his only family. Suddenly, a strange light appeared, opening a massive portal for Leon. Reading this diary, he felt the boy's pain. He understood his deep frustration, especially after getting payback on Shark. Now it was Leon's turn to fulfill that last wish. He went to find Rai. Rai was shocked to see him, asking why he was not at the hospital. But Leon had a massive favor to ask. He needed to find a specific dungeon, one containing rare, highly venomous monsters. Rai thought it over. He mentioned unstable gates in abandoned zones outside the city barriers. Leon explained that those exact monsters held the cure for his sister. Rai nodded, understanding how desperate things were. He brought up a possible cure for severe mana poisoning. He recalled Saber researching monsters with antibodies in a local dungeon. A dungeon located right in the Shibuya district. Hearing that location, Leon bolted immediately, completely ignoring Rai's warnings to wait. Rai stood there, utterly frustrated by the boy's reckless rush. What he does, this dungeon is highly toxic, and data proves anyone inside would perish within 5 minutes. Rai sprints to catch up, knowing that Leon's raw power won't save him from this toxic nightmare. In the heart of Shibuya, Leon looks up grimly, staring at the portal he is about to enter. Luna tries to warn him, but Leon only notes that the poison concentration is indeed insane. He finally understands why Rai tried to stop him, knowing he might not survive 5 minutes in there, but that doesn't matter. He just needs to conquer the dungeon before his time runs out. He tells Luna to wait outside, vowing to save his sister no matter the cost. Luna asks how conquering this place will rescue her, but Leon apologizes, saying the explanations must wait because they are running out of time. He must retrieve those materials at all costs. With that, Leon steps into the mountainous dungeon, greeted by an absolute apocalyptic wasteland. Luna realizes that just as he predicted, they only have 5 minutes under this intense toxicity. If they can defeat the boss, the dungeon will collapse, allowing them to escape. It is a literal race against time to slay the beast. Suddenly, 3 gargoyles charge straight at Leon. As 4 goblins up on the ridge aim down at him, they want to crush him instantly, but Leon channels dark magic, unleashing a devastating shockwave of energy. The gargoyles are instantly shredded to pieces. Leon pivots to the side, greeted by a storm of arrows from the goblins. He evades them effortlessly, weaving in a high-speed zigzag. Leaping onto a narrow stone bridge, he reaches the crest of the cliff, launching a barrage of shadow blades at his foes. The moment they strike, the goblins are torn to shreds. Leon drops back to the dusty ground. He keeps pushing forward, accelerating his pace as fast as possible. With just over 4 minutes left, watching him, Luna marvels as he obliterates hordes of monsters at an absolutely terrifying speed, aware that they are running out of time. She prays he survives. Meanwhile, Leon dodges a barrage of strikes from lizard beasts. Gathering energy in his hands, he detonates a massive blast, never breaking his stride. Meanwhile, a frantic Rai rushes toward the portal alongside the crew. With 3.5 minutes left, a nest of vipers leaps at Leon. He channels power into his fists and blows them apart. Back at the hotel, Meg's vitals are plummeting. Leon easily massacres the remaining monsters, using his scythe to launch himself forward even faster. With only 1 minute remaining, a colossal earthworm erupts right in front of him. Leon stares it down, stealing his resolve as he prepares a outside the Shibuya portal. Rai summons the medical team and orders them to prepare for immediate entry, but when he turns around, the gate vanishes, leaving a single figure standing in its place. Leon walks forward calmly. Rai asks if he is all right, urging him to get treated immediately, but Leon pushes him away, refusing. He still has one more destination. Leon channels wine magic through his boots and leaps high into the sky as Rai screams for him to stop, clutching the crystal to his chest. Leon knows he must rush to deliver the stone to Kurabane and Meg, as Rai. They call him an idiot for being so reckless, but they can't help but wonder how Leon cleared that dungeon in just 5 minutes, admitting the guy is incredible. Over at the hospital, the doctor demands to know where Ren went and what happened to him. Right then, Leon appears at the door. The doctor asks what he is holding as Leon places the crystal onto his sister's chest. Suddenly, streams of pink energy surge from Meg and absorb into the magic stone, a blinding light forcing the doctors to shield their eyes. Meg's hand, once completely motionless, suddenly twitches, forcing the doctor to gasp, calling it a miracle. Meg opens her eyes, looking around and wondering. If that is really her big brother, the nurse announces her symptoms are completely gone and she is safe. They made it, and Ren's desperate wish actually came true. Meg calls out to her brother, realizing he is the one who saved her, explaining that she felt like she was sinking into absolute darkness, thinking it was over, but at the very last second, she remembered him. Reaching out, she felt a voice telling her not to give up and grabbed his hand, thanking him with tears of absolute joy just to be alive. Up on the hospital rooftop, Leon smiles, knowing everything turned out right. He realizes he still has unfinished business in this world, and if his strength can indeed help someone, he will keep fighting until the end. Luna chimes in, saying how incredible it is that he actually managed to save his sister. Leon stares at the magic stone, glad his past life experience came in handy. Mana poisoning was an entirely unknown illness here, but he recognized the miasma immediately. In his previous life, this same corrupted mana had caused endless suffering, and people back then also thought it was an incurable mystery, but he eventually figured out a solution. Fighting the exact same parasite in his past life, Leon discovered that highly toxic monsters store their power inside a stone that absorbs the miasma. He reasoned that if the same rules applied here, the stone could draw the poison right out. Sure enough, the stone glowed just as it did in his past life, giving him the exact result he hoped for. Leon reflects on how Kurabani Ren had been carrying so much regret all this time, which was obvious from his diary. The desperate urge to protect someone precious is a feeling Leon knows all too well. He wonders if this saves Ren's soul just a little bit. Normally, he would just tell Meg he is not actually Kurabani Ren. Luna steps closer and calls out to him. Leon replies that he knows she is awake, having promised to tell her the whole truth when the time is right. Suddenly, Rai's voice echoes, asking if he was up here. Leon whips around. Rai lunges forward, grabbing him by the collar, snapping that he shouldn't have just vanished and ignored everyone, demanding to know if he has any idea how hard it was. Leon apologizes and Rai sighs, saying that at least everything turned out fine in the end. The professor notes that it looks like he really did save his sister, which Leon confirms. Reggie smiles, saying there is nothing better than being able to protect the people you love. Leon looks at him, surprised, as Rai goes on to say that the doctor told him about the stone Leon brought, which apparently has the power to cure mana poisoning. If that is true, then Leon did something incredible. A few days later, the stone Leon brought back is put to use, treating other patients suffering from mana poisoning. This sickness, once feared as an absolute death sentence, is officially declared curable, sending a wave of hope across the world. Inside his office, Rai marvels at how amazing this all is when a sudden noise catches his attention. He turns and glances out into the hallway. Curious, Rai peeks out, but a hand suddenly lunges straight for his throat. He barely dodges the strike, reacting just in time to block the follow-up blow with his arm. The assailant is a bearded man who chuckles, noting that Rai hasn't slacked on his training. Rai answers that it is only thanks to the brutal training from him, dressing him as Chief Shironjuro, leader of Saber's 17th branch district. Rai admits he had no idea the chief returned to Japan. The old man smiles, saying he just landed. He heard some kid cured the mana poisoning crisis that plagued Saber for years. Juro asks if that kid was Leon, the boy working with the special unit, and Rai confirms it, adding that he believes the kid has the exact talent required to fight the forces of the Demon King Belfast. Juro nods, asking if Leon knows about Belfast yet. Rai says no, but plans to reveal humanity's sworn enemy very soon. Juro admits he wanted to see what this young maid is truly capable of, and Rai reveals the special unit officially forms next week. Gazing out the window, Rai notes that things are about to get much busier. Later, as they prepare for the day, Luna points out that their real mission with Saber is finally about to begin, and Leon nods, buttoning his crisp shirt. He says it is about time. In the hallway, they encounter Raggy, who mentions he was searching for them. Leon greets him, and Ray comments that he is looking sharp. Leon asks if today is the day they finally meet the rest of the special unit. Rai confirms it, complaining that the final two members are running late. Leon remembers hearing about those new additions, making Luna wonder if it is indeed who she thinks it is. Suddenly, the door flies open, startling Leon, while Rai turns around. In annoyance, a young guy rushes inside, apologizing for his lateness, and introduces himself as Katsuragi Haruto, formerly of the support division. Right. Behind him, a girl complains she cannot step inside while he blocks the entrance. Stepping inside, she politely greets everyone, introducing herself as Katsuragi AI. She apologizes for their lateness, explaining her brother completely mixed up the scheduled time. As Haruto desperately begs her to keep quiet, turning to Rai, Leon asks if these two are the other recruits, and Ray confirms they are part of the special unit. With stars in his eyes, Haruto says it is an absolute honor to serve under Ray, even asking if they should polish his shoes. Wincing, Rai tells him to start by lowering his voice. Luna whispers that these siblings definitely have big personalities, and Leon thinks to himself that the guy is clearly a hothead. Looking at the sister, he notices she is staring right at him. AI steps up, asking if he is the famous Leon everyone is talking about, mentioning she heard sharing stories of his student dungeon runs and how he cleared the red flower incident. Rai jumps in, explaining that AI is a world-class magic researcher and essentially a young prodigy. Leon nods while AI smiles and says she has a million questions to ask him, but her brother Haruto suddenly cuts her off, demanding to know if this guy is actually Leon. He admits that despite hearing about his selection, he still looks like some ordinary average student. Glaring and pointing directly at Leon, Haruto warns him not to block Rai's path or he'll kick him out immediately. Feeling a bit nervous, Leon tells him to look behind him. Fuming at the interruption, AI smacks her brother on the back and begins scolding him, while Leon can only watch and laugh nervously. Rai speaks up, noting that although the siblings are polar opposites, he personally selected them for their undeniable talent, which Leon will witness soon. Enough, let's follow them into the meeting room, where Rai explains that the four of them will now operate as a special unit, but first he reveals why the elite squad was formed, while regular Saber members handle gate outbreaks. The subjugation unit leads the charge, while support and medical provide backup, and the investigation team analyzes the data. However, Rai explains that since the Red Flower disaster, high threat gates have begun appearing far more frequently. Because of this, the special unit's formal duty is to swiftly clear these high-difficulty gates, but then he drops a bombshell. Their ultimate goal is destroying the source of the gates itself. Haruto asks for clarification, prompting Rai to explain that it is top-secret information restricted to Saber's highest ranks, but he chooses to share the secret. He reveals that these gates are spawned by a terrifying entity known as the Demon King, Belelfar. Hearing that name, Luna gasps, and Leon wonders why it had to be him. Of all people, leaving both of them thoroughly shaken, Rai continues, explaining that despite knowing Belelfar is the source, they lack crucial intel, and that is exactly why this unit exists. Now, we're going to see them uncover his identity and eventually eliminate him, just as Leon prepares to ask a question. Emergency sirens begin echoing through the facility. The alarm gets everyone on their feet, announcing that a new gate has appeared and its danger level is classified as black. Haruto calls it a bad joke, while AI adds that this is the worst threat level recorded in years. Turning to Rai, Haruto insists the situation is critical and they must seal the gate right away. Leon still has questions about the Demon King, but he realizes now is not the time. Urging calm, Leon reveals that he has actually conquered a black gate before, offering to lead, but Rai cuts him off, telling him to hold on. Even if Leon has acted as leader before, he must remember why this team was truly assembled. Rai suddenly summons a spirit wolf, shocking everyone. He declares he is about to prove who the true leader of this unit is. Left with no other choice, Leon simply falls in line. Rai throws on his coat and says they are moving out to close the gate, officially starting the special unit's first major mission.